Everyone in Shangjing once said I was born with a blessed fate. I was a count's daughter who married into a marquise's estate, a ruling matriarch with a noble title, a husband who seemed devoted, and children with brilliant futures. On the surface I had everything a noblewoman could ever desire, but the silk and jade hid a lifetime of grievance. My parents had favored my eldest sister from the day we were born. My husband's tenderness had always belonged to her. Even the children I raised with my own hands never truly saw me as their mother. By the time I understood the truth, my body was exhausted, my heart was full of resentment, and my life had already reached its end. When I breathed my last, the funeral preparations had been made well in advance. As the matriarch of the Marquis' estate and a first-rank noble lady, the funeral rites were naturally exceptionally grand. The entire estate was draped in mourning white, and the incense and candles burned continuously. Chen Tingshuan wore mourning clothes, his hair neatly tied, and personally escorted my coffin. His face was haggard and filled with sorrow, as if he had aged 10 years overnight. The pair of children also wore white mourning garments, crying as if their hearts were being torn apart. Though they were not my flesh and blood, they seemed to mourn as if they were closer than blood kin. My soul floated in the void, coldly observing all of this. That was until I heard my parents saying that I had a good destiny and great luck, and that marrying Chen Tingshuan was my ultimate blessing. As soon as she married, she took charge of the household. Before the age of 20, she was granted a noble title. Looking across all of Shangjing, she was entirely unique. Her children also have great prospects, one a third-place scholar, the other married into a prince's estate, bringing her nothing but glory. Her entire life was draped in silk and jade, enjoying all the wealth and honor the world had to offer. It's only a pity for Nianzhou, who never had such a blessing. Ku Nianzhou, my eldest sister, who had passed away early. That year I was already engaged, but because she died of illness, my parents worried that her pair of children would suffer. So they resolutely forced me to marry Chen Tingshuan as his second wife. Now this had become my good destiny and her misfortune. How utterly ironic. Yet everyone echoed their sentiments, nodding continuously in agreement. Not a single person spoke a word on my behalf. I hated it so much, I felt like going mad. I wanted to curse out loud, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make a sound. Only the coppery taste of blood on the tip of my tongue was terrifyingly clear. Just as I was about to break down, an indignant female voice suddenly rang in my ears. Madam died from exhaustion, her heart choked with repressed grievances. If this is such a blessing, why don't you take it? Do you want it? It was Ruzhou, my close personal maid. I had indeed died of exhaustion. The Marquis of Chongqing's estate had nearly 300 people. The rules were strict, and the hierarchy was rigid. From the time I married into the estate at 16, I hadn't enjoyed a single day of leisure. Every day I woke up at the crack of dawn. First I had to go to the old madam's courtyard to pay my respects and serve her tea. Only after reporting the trivial matters of the estate could I return to my own courtyard for breakfast. After that, it was a busy day without rest. Summoning the managers, checking the account books, balancing the income and expenses, and deciding on daily purchases and expenditures. Personnel arrangements, rewards, and punishments were all decided by me. Although the pair of children were taught by famous tutors, I didn't dare neglect them. The afternoons were even busier, whether it was socializing with the noblewomen in the capital, inviting them to the estate as guests, or going out to attend tea parties and banquets of relatives and friends. Where there are many people, there is gossip. Every day, just mediating and settling disputes consumed a great deal of my energy. What's more, my mother-in-law was an extremely harsh person. She demanded that I inventory the storehouses every month, strictly forbidding even the slightest favoritism toward any branch or person. She also forced me to pay respects every evening, and I could only return to my courtyard after waiting on her until she rested. After spending an hour or two with Chen Tingshuan, it would be late into the night before I could finally rest. I once complained about my hardships to Chen Tingshuan, but he merely frowned and said coldly, "That is your responsibility as the clan matriarch." At most, he would add one more sentence. "You've worked hard. For 20 whole years, I finally managed to hold on until the children grew up, only to find myself completely drained like a lamp out of oil." Ruzhou was dragged away by the servants, howling heartbreakingly. Heavens above, bear witness. This servant is willing to exhaust her own lifespan in exchange for Madame to be reincarnated into a good family, to enjoy a life of wealth, joy, and peace. May those who hurt her suffer a terrible death. Ruzhou, I cried, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to rush forward and stop her, but I was pinned in place by an invisible force, unable to move. My anger attacked my heart, and my blood surged. Surprisingly, I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, the first thing that greeted me was my mother's angry face. Kui, are you listening to me or not? My mother looked much younger, her black hair thick, her features beautiful, and her temperament elegant and noble. That was the noble grace cultivated from being born into a prominent family and living a life of absolute luxury. She interrogated me. You and Nianzhou were born from the same mother. Now that she is in danger, do you really have the heart to stand by and do nothing? To be so coldly selfish? You are not worthy to be my daughter. Lu Piyun, my whole body suddenly trembled. Back then, it was my mother who used every threat and temptation to force me to marry Chen Tingshuan. Was this a dream? Why did my chest feel so painful and furious? If you don't agree, I will sever our mother-daughter relationship. The moment those words left her mouth, my mother froze. I also froze. This voice was both familiar and strange. Wasn't that my own voice? I no longer had the mind to care about Madame Lu. I immediately jumped up and rushed to the bronze mirror. When I saw the person in the mirror with bright eyes, white teeth, black hair, and skin like snow, I covered my mouth in shock. After a moment, I burst into tears. I have actually been reborn. I hugged Rojo tightly, overjoyed. Ruzo, I missed you so much. Thank you. In this life, I will definitely give you a good life. Madame Lu came back to her senses, angrily slamming the table and standing up. What are you muttering about, acting so crazy and bizarre? Do you have any manners left? I casually wiped my tears and looked at her. What did mother just say? Perhaps my gaze was too bright and cold. Madame Lu's expression stiffened. She frowned, looked at me for a moment, then took a deep breath and slowly sat down. The imperial doctor said, she continued, your sister's body won't hold out for more than half a year. Your father and I have decided to marry you over there as his second wife. She looked at me, mist rising in her eyes. This way your sister can leave in peace. Little Yu and little Jia won't have to suffer either. Chen Yu and Chen Jiamin were currently 3 years old and 7 months old, respectively. I feigned shock. Mother, have you forgotten? I am already engaged. The man I was engaged to was the legitimate second son of Count Anyuan's estate. Madame Lu had personally chosen him for me. She claimed that Ku Nianzhou's close boudoir friend was the man's sister, and therefore she understood his character righteous and good-tempered. Those words weren't entirely false. The Gao family was a noble family of successive generations, and Gao Huai was quite famous for his literary talent. However, he had a distant female cousin who had grown up with him since childhood. In my previous life, as soon as his legitimate wife crossed the threshold, that cousin was immediately elevated to a noble concubine. That little concubine relied on his favor to act arrogantly, repeatedly framing the legitimate wife, forcing her to beat the grievance drum outside the imperial court to beg for justice. Gao Wei was impeached by the imperial censors for favoring a concubine and destroying his wife, and was demoted to Changzhou, yet he pushed all the blame onto his legitimate wife. It was evident enough that he was a muddled fool. His sister must have known the inside story perfectly well. Perhaps Ku Nianzhou had been deceived by her, or perhaps she simply didn't care. After all, Chen Tingshuan also once had a bedchamber maid who had grown up by his side, but she had been sent away before Ku Nianzhou married him. Madame Lu said calmly, "Yesterday I went to Count Anyuan's estate to cancel the engagement. Madame Gao also understands our difficult situation. Did elder sister agree? She and my brother-in-law are deeply in love. I'm just afraid she will hate me." I lowered my eyes and whispered, "Perhaps she will resent mother as well. I am doing this for her own good. Why would she resent me?" I said nothing, simply staring intently at Madame Lu without blinking, until she guiltily turned her face away. As a mother, one must be strong. No matter how much she hates it, she must think of little Yu and little Jia. That was true, but on what grounds did she drag me down to be the scapegoat? Mother, elder sister is still alive. What we should do is save her life, not add to her worries. The imperial doctor already said. The imperial doctor is not a god. If this person doesn't work, we change to another. All the famous doctors in Shangjing have seen her. Who else can we change to? Madame Lu grew furious, pointing at my face and scolding, "Quilin Yao, don't purposely make a scene using etiquette as an excuse. If I have a way to save elder sister, is mother willing to try it once?" Following my suggestion, Madame Lu left, half believing and half doubting. 2 hours later, Chen Tingshuan arrived at the Kui estate. In the drawing room, Madame Lu sat in the host's seat, allowing us to converse through a translucent folding screen. "This Dr. Qin is nameless and unknown. Why does second sister say he can save Nianzhou?" Chen Tingshuan's voice was gentle, carrying a bit of hope and hesitation. Through the gap in the screen, I saw him 20 years younger. He wore a white brocade robe, with his hair secured by a jade hairpin and a simple, unadorned crown. It all highlighted his handsome, gentle face and upright, honorable demeanor. Only the distinct dark circles under his eyes revealed his anxiety and worry over the past few days. His affection for Ku Nianzhou was indeed deep and righteous, enough to outshine the sun and moon. I respectfully replied, Dr. Qin is a hidden expert. I also heard about him from pilgrims coming to fulfill their vows when I went to offer incense at Lingyan Temple. Whether you believe it or not is up to Marquis Chen to decide. Having been husband and wife for 20 years, I resented Chen Tingshuan, but not to the point of extreme hatred. That path was chosen for me by my parents. He and I were both just passive recipients. If I hated him a bit, I should also hate myself a bit. Besides, in the previous life he wasn't considered bad to me. Although there was no love, he still gave me enough respect and dignity. To bear children for many years, I was harshly criticized by the old madam. Yet he had protected me, accompanying me to pray to the heavens, and seeking doctors and medicine. The divine doctor, Qin Han, was also found by him. Qin Tingshuan pondered for a moment, then said to Madame Lu, even if there is only a sliver of hope, Tingshuan absolutely must try. After saying that, he bowed deeply toward me. If Nianzhou recovers from her illness, second miss will be the lifesaver of our husband and wife. In the future, I will definitely repay you, offering my unwavering loyalty and doing whatever it takes to return the favor. I stood up and returned the greeting. Elder sister and I were born of the same mother. Marquis Chen doesn't need to be polite. After Chen Tingshuan left, I immediately returned to my courtyard. No sooner had I sat down than Madame Lu sent an elderly maidservant over, with a jar of tonic soup and a box of precious incense. The old maid said, Madame saw that second Mrs. complexion wasn't good, so she specially ordered this old servant to bring these over. I pretended to be delighted, accepted them, and rewarded the old maid with 2 silver leaves. Please thank mother on my behalf. In front of the old maid, I drank the entire bowl of tonic soup, then ordered my maid to immediately change the incense burning in the room. As soon as the old maid left, I forced myself to throw everything back up. Rougeau thought I was sick and frantically wanted to call for a doctor. I stopped her. Tomorrow, go quietly to Lingsheng Pavilion and buy some incense exactly like this. Rougeau was puzzled. Why? It's mixed with musk. Burning it over a long period will make a woman unable to conceive. Rougeau was so horrified that all the color drained from her face, she nearly lost her voice. Why would Madame harm you like this? She is your biological mother. Yes, I didn't understand it either. Madame Lu and Ku Shouzheng were my biological parents, and they had once loved and spoiled me. But in the favoritism displayed in front of outsiders, I was inferior to Ku Nianzhou in every aspect. My courtyard was only half the size of hers. Every season when new fabrics arrived, she always picked first before it was my turn. From a young age I was intelligent. Whether it was the classics, history, poetry, or needlework and household management, I excelled in every area. Cui Nianzhou's was no match for me. She didn't make a fuss, nor did she argue. She just cried. She would cry until she fainted, and when she woke up, she wouldn't eat anything, her body growing weaker by the day. Madame Lu and Kui Shouzheng then blamed me for being too competitive, for not caring about sisterly affection. For a noble lady, the biggest taboo is showing off. Do you think your sister is inferior to you? It's because she's sensible and knows how to hide her talents. Look at yourself every time you insist on suppressing her. I felt very aggrieved, heartbroken, and even ashamed, but I never thought that it wasn't my fault to begin with. It wasn't until my previous life, when Chen Tingshuan and I had developed a bit of affection, that I accidentally overheard Madame Lu with red eyes asking him, "Have you forgotten Nianzhou?" It wasn't until Qin Han told me that my inability to conceive was because the incense Madame Lu gifted me contained musk, and those bowls of tonic soup she occasionally sent to the Marquis's estate were the catalyst. The two combined not only caused a person to become barren but also severely damaged the body. I knew she was afraid that if I gave birth to my own child, it would be detrimental to Chen Yu and Chen Jiamin. But I couldn't wrap my head around it, so the grievances knotted in my heart. Eventually, I coughed up blood and died. I never expected that in this life, when Ku Nianzhou clearly had a chance to survive, she would still go to such lengths for her. But in this life I no longer wanted to understand. If they didn't love me, I didn't need to treat them as family anymore. I told Chen Tingshuan to find Qin Han not only because Qin Han could save Cui Nianzhou. More importantly, according to the trajectory of my previous life, half a month later, Chen Tingshuan would save the Crown Prince on Juk Street. He was a talented man, and not only was he promoted to left supervisor because of that opportunity, but he also caught the Emperor's eye. Even if the crown prince later died of illness and couldn't inherit the throne, he still stood firm in the royal court, becoming the new emperor's right-hand man. If he and Ku Nianzhou truly loved each other so deeply as to move the heavens and the earth, I really wanted to see if he would later regret missing that opportunity for her. In this life without me managing the inner household for him, I wanted to see how long he and Ku Nianzhou could maintain their poetic romance. After Chen Tingshuan left the capital, I went to visit Ku Nianzhou once. Because she was in a coma, I couldn't see her. Instead, I bumped into Chen Yu, who was crying for his mother. He was 3 years old, using his childish voice to call me aunt. In my previous life, when I was about to breathe my last, he also knelt by my sickbed calling me aunt, thoughtfully and respectfully managing my funeral arrangements. I noticed his face was unusually red. I touched his clothes and found they were indeed completely soaked. Looking at his thin, weak frame, he looked exactly as he did when I first married into the Marquis estate in my previous life. I immediately reprimanded his wet nurse for negligence, then told Ku Nianzhou's senior maid to report it to the old madam of the Marquis estate. Regardless, this was the child I had raised with my own hands. Giving a word of warning could be considered paying off the last bit of affection from my previous life. Madame Lu was very pleased with my actions. She sent over quite a few good things, and even made an exception to let me go out and stroll through the night market. Without hesitation, I chose the 10th day of the month, the exact day the crown prince would leave the palace. The Great Xia dynasty had an open culture, and the night markets in Shangjing were always bustling. Even if it wasn't a festival, the area around Juk Street was often brightly lit all night long. The hubbub of voices never ceased, and the two sides of the street were lined with tall buildings, from which the sounds of lutes and flutes drifted continuously. Amidst those enchanting melodies, a woman's soaring singing voice suddenly rang out. The voice was clear and powerful, like heavenly music descending from the sky through the sea of people. I lifted the carriage curtain. The carriage had arrived in front of Chenyun Pavilion, the place where Crown Prince Xiao Feng had encountered assassins in his previous life. Xiao Feng was the eldest son of the current emperor and empress. He had been extraordinarily intelligent since childhood, excelling in both literature and martial arts. He had the talent to rule a country and the virtue of a monarch. When he was the crown prince, he was trusted by the emperor, submitted to by the officials, and praised by the common people. Unfortunately, he passed away before the age of 24. In my previous life, by the time Chen Tingshuan saved Xiao Feng, the crown prince had already been badly wounded. From then on, he was plagued by illness, bedridden, and despite the imperial hospital exhausting all their efforts, they could only extend his life by 5 years. It wasn't until many years later that I saw clearly. All of this had been a conspiracy from the very beginning. Chenshun Pavilion was a famous establishment in Shangjing, built with extreme luxury and splendor. Walking inside, winding streams and brilliant flowers dazzled the eyes. Fortunately, I had previously asked Chen Tingshuan about the details of this incident, so I had booked a private room near where Xiao Feng was staying in advance. I didn't have many people I could use by my side, so to ensure nothing went wrong, I sent them all out, just like in the previous life. Saving Xiao Feng wasn't difficult, but what I wanted was an intact Xiao Feng without the slightest damage. Today Xiao Feng had accepted the invitation of Xin Zhong, the heir of Duke Suguo's estate. The Xin family was the empress's maiden family. Because of their close relationship, Xiao Feng hadn't brought many people with him. Most of the guards were arranged by the duke's estate. I sat quietly drinking tea. About 15 minutes later, the servant Changping came in to report. This servant has asked Yunwei's maid. She only knows that heir Shen is hosting a banquet for a distinguished guest today, but doesn't know the guest's identity. Yunwei was the most famous songstress in Shangjing at present. That heavenly song just now was sung by her. I pondered for a moment, then led Ruzo out of the private room. Please inform His Highness the Crown Prince that the legitimate second daughter of Count Yongcheng's estate, Kui Lingyao, has come to thank him for saving her life. The guard was so shocked that he was speechless for a moment. After a while, he said warily, "What nonsense is this lady talking about? How could His Highness the Crown Prince be here?" I frowned slightly and replied with confusion, "That's what everyone on the street is saying." Before I could finish my sentence, the manager of Chenyun Pavilion came stumbling up the stairs. "Quickly report to heir Shen." Tens of thousands of commoners have gathered outside the pavilion, all demanding to see the crown prince. He had purposely lowered his voice, but I still heard it clearly. The corners of my lips couldn't help but curl into a smile. "Xiao Feng, I've just saved your life." For 2 days in a row, I heard the servants in the estate gossiping about the commotion at Shenyun Pavilion that night. What they mentioned the most was the Crown Prince's demeanor. The Crown Prince is truly an exceptional man among mortals, with the noble lineage of the imperial family. I heard that when he appeared, the lights on the entire Zhuge Street seemed to dim. I heard our eldest master is already very handsome. I wonder how he compares to the Crown Prince? Of course, the Crown Prince is superior. Word outside has spread everywhere that he is as handsome as an immortal banished to the mortal realm. Shh! Keep your voice down. Be careful not to be heard by the superiors, or you'll be punished. The voices drifted further away. Ruzo pouted and looked at me. Miss, if you had stayed a bit longer that day, you would have been able to see the Crown Prince. He is so wonderful. Who knows, he might even be able to help Miss. Chen Tingshuan hadn't returned for a long time, so Madame Lu forced me to go to the Marquis of Chongqing's estate every day to take care of Chen Yu and Chen Jiamin. Taking this proactive step truly showed zero regard for my reputation. In the future, if Ku Nianzhou recovered, and she and her husband were deeply in love with a house full of children, I would bear a bad name. Coveting my brother-in-law while my legitimate sister was gravely ill. That's exactly what happened in the previous life. I used illness as an excuse not to go, and Madame Lu punished me by grounding me to copy the rules for women. I reached out and rubbed Ruzhou's head. Silly girl, begging others is never as good as relying on yourself. Ruzhou's eyes immediately widened, as if she suddenly thought of something. Miss, why do you like rubbing this servant's head so much lately? You're just like my mother. I have lived 20 years longer than you. Being your mother is more than enough. I smiled. I hope to have a cute daughter like you in the future. Please don't. My mother calls me a fool all day long. Ruzhou blushed slightly. Mrs. Daughter will definitely be as beautiful and smart as Miss. Saying this, she sighed again. Madame's favoritism is really too much. Recently all the estates have been holding flower viewing banquets, yet she didn't take Miss along. So-called flower viewing banquets were actually matchmaking events. How could Madame Lu possibly take me? Just wait and see, that person will personally invite me. Xiao Feng didn't make me wait long. On the third day, people from the palace arrived, specifically demanding that Madame Lu bring me into the palace to attend the spring banquet hosted by the Empress. Madame Lu didn't dare refuse and had no choice but to take me to the banquet. Along the way, she continuously warned me, the Empress hosting this banquet is to choose a princess consort for Prince Xiao. Our Count of Yangchang's estate has always known how to keep to ourselves and not get involved in struggles. You must absolutely not show off casually and implicate the estate. Prince Zhao Xiaolan was Xiao Feng's younger brother born of the same mother. In the previous life, after Xiao Feng passed away, he was the one who inherited the great lineage. I asked, the Crown Prince hasn't married yet, how can it be Prince Zhao's turn? This year, Xiao Feng was already 19 years old. Logically, he should have long had a flock of wives and concubines and a house full of children. If the Crown Prince didn't want it, what could the Empress do? Madame Lu replied. The Empress Dowager loved the Crown Prince the most. Before her passing, she left an edict allowing the Crown Prince to decide his own marriage. Who did the Empress have her eye on before? Previously, the Empress favored the legitimate daughter of the Marquis of Yangyi and the Minister of Personnel's estate. It seems the illegitimate daughter of Duke Yingguo's estate was also summoned to the palace for a viewing, but the Crown Prince didn't agree to any of them. So the rumors say, how strange. Choosing the Crown Princess is always related to the political situation of the royal court. Since ancient times, it has always been the result of balancing different factions. When the Crown Prince chooses a Crown Princess, he is generally choosing the power backing her. Although Xiao Feng's position as the Crown Prince was as solid as a rock, if the other princes used their maternal family's power to grow stronger, it would still pose a threat. Unless the Crown Prince has someone he loves? I've never heard of such a thing. Madame Lu lowered her voice. But he is 19 this year, and I heard he doesn't even have a single bedmaid. My eyes widened slightly. Madame Lu sneered. You sure know quite a bit, don't you? Before she was married, your sister never discussed outside men. Just hearing about it would make her blush with shame. Huh? Weren't you the one who brought it up first? I was too lazy to argue with Madame Lu, turning my head to lift the curtain and look outside. People often say that a life-saving grace must be repaid with unwavering loyalty, or even by offering oneself in marriage. I still hadn't figured out exactly how I should demand Xiao Feng to repay this favor. The banquet was held in the Imperial Garden. Madame Lu and I sat at different tables, both in quite inconspicuous positions. When the banquet was at its liveliest, a palace maid took advantage of pouring wine to lean close to my ear and whisper, "Second Miss Ku, His Highness the Crown Prince invites you." As soon as she left, I used changing clothes as an excuse to leave the banquet, heading straight for the Jiangshu Pavilion in the southeast corner. In my previous life, I had attended many palace banquets, so I was quite familiar with the Imperial Garden. Jiangshu Pavilion was elegant and rarely visited, surrounded by a lake in the front and back, making it highly suitable for secret conversations. I walked into the main hall and, upon lifting my head, saw Xiao Feng. He wore a profound black brocade robe with four-clawed dragon patterns winding around the collar and sleeves, a jade belt, and a jade clasp. His ink-black hair was neatly tied with a bright lustrous jade hairpin. His posture was elegant, his temperament naturally noble, and his appearance was handsome to the extreme, almost carrying a demonic charm. Yet those eyes were chilling to the bone. That wasn't the indifference of a superior looking at ants, but a probing gaze sharp as a blade. My heart beat like a rapid drum. I stepped forward and curtsied. "May I ask why His Highness the Crown Prince summoned this official's daughter here? Didn't you say that day you wanted to thank me for saving your life? How do you plan to show your gratitude?" That day, I had spoken those words firstly, because I wasn't sure I could bring people there in time, and secondly, to take a gamble to attract Xiao Feng's attention. I didn't expect that a fabricated excuse would be thrown right back at me. "How does your highness wish for this official's daughter to show her gratitude?" "Repay a life with a life." Xiao Feng lowered his head, looking straight into my eyes. "How about it?" My hands unconsciously clenched tightly, but outwardly I remained as calm as ever. "Your highness's life is 10 million times more precious than mine." That day at Shenyun Pavilion, this official's daughter had already repaid that favor to your highness. You deliberately led those people there. Is your highness summoning me today to grant a reward? This official's daughter doesn't care for empty fame. Gold, silver, and jewels are enough. Xiao Feng chuckled coldly, clearly amused by me. "You truly dare to ask. This official's daughter has rendered a great merit. It is what I deserve to receive." Xiao Feng was silent for a long time, eventually giving up the thought of arguing with me and getting straight to the point. "What exactly do you want? Your highness must have already investigated. How did you know there would be assassins at Shenyun Pavilion that day?" "It's a long story. Could this official's daughter sit down?" Xiao Feng glanced at me, then turned and sat down first. I followed suit and sat. My mother loves eating pastries. She noticed a woman, Big Sister Huang, selling sweet dumplings on the street with excellent culinary skills, so she wanted to pay a high price to hire her as a chef in the count's estate. But because her mother-in-law was bedridden with illness, she only agreed to make the pastries every day and deliver them to the estate. Before that day, she hadn't come to the estate for 7 days. "Does this have something to do with the incident?" "My mother sent someone to ask the neighbors," said Big Sister Huang's husband had rendered a great merit and had taken her away to enjoy a good life. "Does your highness know who her husband is?" "You expect me to know?" I ignored the mockery in his words and continued. "That person's name is Zhang Zhong. He is a third-class guard of Duke Sugua's estate. Just based on this point alone, the second miss wants to falsely accuse Duke Sugua's estate?" Xiao Feng's voice was clear and cold. The sharp, probing look from earlier had completely vanished, replaced by an indifferent gaze that revealed neither joy nor anger. "This official's daughter has never falsely accused anyone. I am merely stating the facts. Indeed, those are the facts." Initially, I was racking my brains trying to find a reason to deal with Xiao Feng. I didn't expect the evidence to deliver itself to my door. Even a low-ranking guard of a duke's estate receives a generous salary, which can be considered having a foothold. However, his wife had to sell sweet dumplings on the street to help support the family. No matter how you looked at it, it was very unusual. Therefore, I sent someone to investigate. It turned out that after Zhang Yong became prosperous, he wanted to divorce his wife to marry someone else, kicking Big Sister Huang and their 2 daughters out of the house. His mother was so furious that she also moved out to live with her daughter-in-law. Zhang Yong was still somewhat filial to his old mother and didn't dare mention divorcing his wife again. He himself took his beautiful concubine and the children born to her to live in a grand mansion, leaving his old mother, his legal wife, and his 2 daughters to fend for themselves. Since that was the case, why would he suddenly take the 3 of them back? Xiao Feng picked up his teacup, looking like an incredibly patient listener. "Why do you think?" "Because the person who took them away wasn't Zhang Yong." I spoke decisively, enunciating every word clearly. The master behind the scenes is about to undertake a major endeavor. As an insider, regardless of success or failure, he is certain to die. He thought he could trade his life for the lives of his old mother, wife, and children. Little did he know, the master behind the scenes acted with extreme caution and didn't leave a single one alive. Initially, I also didn't expect the Shen family to be so ruthless. Even if the great endeavor failed, they still slaughtered everyone who knew about it. After waiting 2 days, and not seeing Big Sister Wang return home, I sent someone to watch the mass grave. Sure enough, many new unmarked graves appeared there. The corpses inside had been mutilated beyond recognition, but there were only the elderly, women, and children. Not a single strong man. It was probably to avoid attracting attention that their bodies were discarded elsewhere. Hearing this, Xiao Feng's expression turned gloomy. My heart pounded heavily, unsure how much he would believe. After all, the Shen family did things very cleanly in the previous life. It wasn't until a year before Xiao Feng passed away that the true culprit was finally found. It was Duke Suguo Shensu's most trusted confidant. This person, harboring resentment for having his wife stolen, plotted to assassinate heir Shenzhong, but ended up accidentally injuring the crown prince. Such an excuse was full of holes, yet Xiao Feng actually believed him. He executed the man's 3 generations of relatives, and afterward continued his close relationship with Duke Suguo's estate, just as before, right up until his death. If the crown prince doesn't believe it, you can send someone to the mass grave to check. My people have already been there. Xiao Feng's gaze was sharp as a knife. The person you sent to investigate. I was startled, my heart racing. After weighing my options, I gritted my teeth and said, "The wine your highness drank that night must have been spiked with something." Crown Prince Xiao Feng possessed extraordinary natural talent since childhood, exceptionally intelligent. He composed poetry at 3, understood classics at 5, had a photographic memory at 7, mastered military strategy at 10, and at 13, his horsemanship and archery were unparalleled. Able to spar with the commander of the Imperial Guards, he was a rare prodigy in the world. Had he not been poisoned? How could it have been Chen Tingshuan's turn to save him in the previous life? Duke Suguo is my maternal uncle. What benefit would they gain from my death? I tried to guess his intentions, 1,000 thoughts swirling in my mind. Ultimately, I decided to make a gamble. Your Highness possesses peerless talent. Your moral reputation resounds far and wide. You are a fated wise ruler, but some people would prefer an obedient puppet. Xiao Feng remained silent for a long time. After a while, he smirked coldly. Second Miss Kui knows entirely too much. Aren't you afraid of being silenced? With your Highness protecting me, this official's daughter is very safe. Xiao Feng didn't expect I could be so thick-skinned and nonchalant. He choked for a moment before coldly snorting, "You have a lot of confidence in yourself. This official's daughter has even more confidence in His Highness the Crown Prince. I bet that I still had some value to him. Don't flatter me. What exactly do you want? Can I ask for anything? If you are too greedy, I will choose to silence you." "Alright, I'll say it. This official's daughter is not greedy. I only beg your highness to help me find a good marriage match." "What?" Xiao Feng looked at me like I was a fool, almost unable to believe it. "You want me to marry you off?" My face flushed bright red, but my voice remained extremely firm. "Yes. I don't want to marry, but if I don't, I'll be locked in the count's estate forever, controlled by Madame Lu. Rather than sitting and waiting for my fate to be decided by others, I'd rather choose it myself." Xiao Feng asked, "Who have you taken a fancy to?" "This official's daughter hasn't decided yet. I heard your engagement with Gao Wei was broken off because you couldn't bear children. To make it so I couldn't be married off after the broken engagement, Madame Lu used every trick in the book. I immediately denied it. Absolutely not true. If I help you, what do I get out of it? This official's daughter can recommend a talent to your highness. I am not lacking in talents by my side. This official's daughter guarantees this person will definitely not disappoint your highness's expectations." Xiao Feng glanced at me, suddenly stood up, and began pacing back and forth in the room. I silently counted. On the 5th pass, he turned his head and glanced at me. On the 15th pass, he turned and assessed me from head to toe. The moment our eyes met, he immediately looked away and continued pacing. On the 27th pass, he finally stopped, turned to look at me, and in his deep eyes, there was a hint of unnatural awkwardness. "What are your expectations for your future fiancé? His family background cannot be lower than a marquis's estate. His status must be at least an heir. He must be young and handsome, highly talented and educated, possess upright moral character, and have abundant family wealth." I originally planned to add a few more sentences, but seeing Xiao Feng's expression, the words changed direction at the tip of my tongue. I offered a forced smile. "These requirements are just an exhaustive list. If we hit it off, they can be slightly adjusted. What do you think of me?" I stared at him in shock. Xiao Feng covered his mouth with his hand and coughed lightly, the tips of his ears already flushed red. I still haven't taken a consort. I completely fit your requirements. This absolutely will not do. Are you rejecting me? Xiao Feng was almost in disbelief. Could it be that I'm not even comparable to the Marquis of Chongqing? My pupils dilated fiercely, unable to believe my own ears. Your Highness. Xiao Feng's expression remained unchanged. I heard the Marquis of Chongqing is the #1 scholar in Shangjing, with looks as handsome as Pan An, the legendary paragon of male beauty, and was once the dream lover of countless unmarried maidens. Perhaps so, but that definitely does not include this official's daughter. Then what do you think of me? His Highness the Crown Prince has the bearing of a dragon and the grace of a phoenix, an outstanding presence, and looks unmatched in the world. Cut the flattery. Didn't you tell me to say it? Are you willing to marry me? I took a deep breath. What does your Highness need this official's daughter to do? Second Miss Kui only needs to present me with a gift. After talking with Xiao Feng for quite a while, it was a bit late when I returned to the banquet. On the way back, Madame Lu clearly displayed her displeasure. Where did you run off to just now? Even Her Majesty, the Empress, was asking for you. Why would Her Majesty ask for me? I didn't think much of it, merely smiling. Isn't that even better? It saves Her Majesty from setting her sights on me and making Mother unhappy. Madame Lu's expression stiffened, then she sneered. Do you think you are Nianzhou, Her Majesty? The Empress has a very discerning eye. Mother is right. Otherwise, back then, Her Majesty wouldn't have wanted to grant a marriage between the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Works estate and Marquis Chen. If it weren't for Marquis Chen's merit in managing the floods, making up for his mistakes, I'm afraid Her Majesty wouldn't have let elder sister off so easily either. You, Madame Lu glared at me. You always like to bicker and win. I didn't want to continue arguing with her, so I closed my eyes and pretended to rest. Halfway through the journey, the carriage was intercepted by the Count Estate steward leading a group of people. Madam. The Marquis of Changqing's estate had just sent word. Eldest Mrs. Illness has stabilized. What did you say? Ting Xuan has returned to the capital? Madame Lu immediately lifted the carriage curtain to ask again. Steward Kufu replied. The eldest master returned to the capital last night and even brought back divine Dr. Qin. This old servant has already sent someone to the government office to inform the master. I wonder if Madame wishes to go to the Marquis of Chongqing's estate right now? Of course we must go. Hurry up. As soon as Madame Lu gave the order, the driver immediately turned the horses around and galloped straight toward the Marquis of Chongqing's estate. Chen Tingshuan's journey this time had not been smooth. The Qian region was mountainous, and Langwang Peak, where Chen Han resided, was even more treacherous. The mountain paths were steep, and human footprints were rarely seen. The group first got lost, then encountered heavy rain, getting trapped in the mountains for 2 days and 1 night. By the time they found Chen Han, many had fallen ill from miasma. Chen Tingshuan was even bitten by a poisonous snake. Thanks to his servant Chenzhou promptly sucking out the poisoned blood, he kept his life, but Chenzhou died. My gaze swept over Chen Tingshuan, perhaps because he had to receive guests. He had changed his clothes and tidied up, dressed in brocade and fine garments. His hat and robes were neat without a single wrinkle. Outwardly, he still maintained the outstanding demeanor of a noble young master, but his eyes while speaking were dark and weary, as if he had continuously endured too many successive blows. The more he dressed in neat formal attire, the more isolated and desolate he looked. How strange. Logically, he should have been overjoyed beyond words. Right, Chenzhou's mother was Chenshuan's wet nurse. The two of them had grown up together since childhood. They were master and servant, but also brothers. Chenzhou died to save him. Given Qing Xuan's personality, he must be extremely guilt-ridden. Coupled with the physical and mental exhaustion of a 1,000-mile journey, it made him so haggard he looked as if his spirit had been drained. Madame Lu had already cried once on the way here. Now hearing firsthand that Kunianzhou could be saved, she cried even harder, even pointing at the sky and swearing to eat a vegetarian diet for 3 years to fulfill her vow. Seeing my calm expression, standing perfectly still, the tenderness of a mother in her heart instantly vanished cleanly. Your sister has been saved, aren't you happy? How did I give birth to such an unfilial, stone-hearted daughter who cares nothing for sisterly affection like you? You're forbidden from eating dinner tonight. Go kneel in the ancestral hall for me, she scolded very loudly, as if I had just committed an unforgivable crime against heaven and earth. I put on a panicked expression and said flusteredly, Mother, why are you saying such things? This daughter was merely too surprised, too overjoyed to react in time. Mother, how can mother smear this daughter like this? Since it has come to this daughter might as well cut her hair and become a nun, so as not to defile the Count's estate's reputation. Before I finished speaking, tears fell first, truly sorrowful, truly aggrieved. Everyone in the room was stunned. Madame Lu seemed petrified. She never imagined that Kui Ling Yao, who was always straightforward and swallowed insults in silence, would one day know how to cry foul and shed weak tears. The atmosphere instantly became extremely awkward. Just then, Chen Tingshes took a step back and bowed respectfully to Madame Lu. Perhaps mother-in-law simply lost her composure for a moment due to extreme worry. If it weren't for second sister recommending Dr. Qin, I'm afraid Nianzhou and I would have been separated by life and death. After saying that, he solemnly bowed deeply to me. From today onward, second sister is the benefactor of the Marquis of Chongqing's estate. I wasn't surprised by Chen Tingshuan's actions. He was a gentleman raised strictly in an aristocratic family, rigidly adhering to propriety and rules, always distinguishing clearly between gratitude and grudges, based on principles. Therefore, I turned sideways to accept his bow. Marquis Chen praises me too much. This is what I ought to do. Unexpectedly, Chen Tingshuan bowed even lower. If second sister has any wish in the future, even if I must die 10,000 deaths, I will not refuse. I froze for a moment, then smiled warmly. In the future, Marquis Chen only needs to love elder sister and live in harmony with her for 100 years. That will be fulfilling my wish. As soon as these words were spoken, not only Ku Shouzheng and Madame Lu, but everyone present looked at me with approving eyes. Only Chen Tingshuan's gaze was misty and complex, seemingly joyful yet sad. But I had no mood to think too deeply into it. After accepting the old madame's thank you gifts, I returned to the estate with Ku Shouzheng. Along the way, the commoners were all discussing Dr. Qin, talking about the touching story of how the second miss of Count Yongchang's estate performed the 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows at Lingyan Temple, fasting for 3 days, and finally received a dream from the Bodhisattva pointing the way to save her eldest sister. Second Miss Kui truly has a noble and pure character. I heard that to exchange for her eldest sister's recovery, and fearing she would delay the heir of Count Anyuan's estate, she made a vow before the Buddha's statue, and broke off her engagement. Count Yongchang's estate truly has an unblemished family tradition to raise a young lady who so profoundly understands righteousness. I listened calmly to those words, only finding it a bit amusing. It was really hard on Xiao Feng to have to fabricate a story for me. Seeing that I remained completely silent from beginning to end, Kui Shou Jing asked, I remember you used to love talking. I lowered my head and respectfully replied, Mother told me I should speak less, be like elder sister, and become a person who understands etiquette and reason. Father knows you feel wronged in your heart. Your mother shouldn't have cancelled your marriage so arbitrarily, he sighed, his voice strained. Since childhood, your sister has been frail. It was unavoidable for your mother and me to favor her a bit. We have truly wronged you over the years. Whether in my previous life or this one, Ku Sheng had said these words countless times in the past. I was foolish, always opening my mouth to comfort him and sympathize with his difficulties. But the more I did that, the more grievances I had to endure, and the more they took it all for granted. If father feels he has wronged me, then he can compensate this daughter. I blinked, pretending to be innocent. What does father plan to compensate me with? Ku Shouzheng's expression stiffened. He was displeased inwardly, but couldn't conveniently get angry. He could only reply dryly, What do you want? What does father want to give you? Ku Shouzheng hesitated for a moment. Wait for me to discuss it with your mother. There's no need. I just want father to promise me one thing. What is it? From now on, don't say the word wrong to me again, and don't even think about asking me to keep yielding. Today I saved Kui Nianzhou. She owes me a life. I don't need her to repay me, but she shouldn't expect to gain even the slightest bit more benefit from me either. I hope father and mother will also treat me as a human being and stop forcing me to do anything anymore. I raised my head, coldly looking at Ku Shouzheng, and slowly said, Otherwise I can make the people in the capital praise Count Yongchang's excellent teaching methods today, and tomorrow I can also make them smash the Count's estate's reputation into pieces. Perhaps my words truly shocked Ku Shouzheng. That night after Madame Lu returned to the estate, the two of them had a massive argument. Madame Lu cried endlessly, while Ku Shouzheng glared and blew his beard, every single word blaming her for her favoritism. Hearing the servants report this back to me, I only found it laughable. Ku Shouzheng's selfishness and hypocrisy could only deceive Madame Lu. Compared to Madame Lu's favoritism toward Kui Nianzhou, which stemmed from the bottom of her heart, his favoritism entirely stemmed from calculation. When Kui Nianzhou was young, she knew how to act weak, knew how to say sweet words that made him happy. Thus he favored her. Kunianzhou became famous among noble ladies for her looks and talents, bringing him glory. Thus he favored her. Kunianzhou married high into a marquise estate, benefiting both the count's estate and his official career. Thus he favored her. Only in the matter of wanting me to marry, Qin Tingshuan was it not favoritism, but because the Marquis of Chengxing's estate had a higher status than Count anyone's estate, Qin Tingshuan was also much more useful than Gao Huai. He reaped all the benefits while letting Madame Lu bear all the infamy. The candles in the main courtyard burned well past midnight. Early the next morning, Madame Lu sent someone to bring me many things. Pearls, jade, jewelry, fabrics, spices, all were precious items, carefully stored at the bottom of her chests. Even when I married in my previous life, I was never treated like this. At that time, Madame Lu said I was a second wife and shouldn't hold too ostentatious a wedding. Otherwise, outsiders would say I had long hoped to marry into the Marquise's estate. That will affect your reputation, and also cause people to criticize the Count's estate. Those were her exact words. She knew everything, yet she still forced me to go to the Marquise estate to take care of things when Ku Nianzhou was gravely ill. As a result, later on, no matter how hard I tried, the servants in the Marquise estate always gossiped behind my back. The old madam didn't trust me. Chen Tingshuan also always harbored a knot in his heart. Chen Jiamin was instigated by others. After growing up, her relationship with me was always cold. It wasn't until she married and had a difficult life at her husband's family, framed by her husband's sisters, smeared by the concubines, that she gradually understood my feelings and wanted to mend our mother-daughter bond. But by then my heart had grown completely cold. I accepted everything Madame Lu sent over, then proposed that I wanted to visit the Yulin villa. Old Madam. The old madam I referred to was Ku Shouzheng's adoptive mother. My biological grandmother passed away from illness when Ku Shouzheng was only 6 years old. My grandfather worried that if he remarried a noble lady from an aristocratic family, she would mistreat his legitimate son, married Madame Zeng, who came from a merchant family. Madame Zeng was a very shrewd person. After marrying into the Count's estate, she didn't speak of affection, only of benefits. My grandfather gave her the dignity of the matriarch of the Count's estate. She used her silver to uphold the estate's facade, managed the household, and took care of the children. After my grandfather passed away, Ku Shoujing and my 2 aunts always respected Madame Zeng. Everyone lived in harmony and peace until Madame Lu crossed the threshold. Although Madame Lu didn't come from the main branch of the Fanyang Lu clan, her uncles and older brothers all had very promising careers. Some were esteemed, upright scholars, while others were high-ranking officials of the 4th rank or above. She had been spoiled since childhood and was unwilling to be ordered around by a nominal mother-in-law like Madame Zeng. Therefore she opposed Madame Zeng in everything. Madame Zeng gave her gold, silver and jewels. She mocked Madame Zeng for reeking of money. Madame Zeng gave her brocades and silks. She despised Madame Zeng for being vulgar and smelling heavily of a merchant. Madame Zeng used her private money to reward the servants. She angrily said the other party only knew how to crush people with money. Madame Zeng never bickered with her. Seeing that she didn't like them, she eventually stopped gifting them top-tier glowing pearls and beautiful jade, rare moonflower brocades and shimmering silks. If Madame Zeng didn't use them herself, she rewarded them to her close servants. It made Madame Lu so angry she threw crying tantrums. The 2 of them completely fell out when I was 5 years old. At that time Madame Lu and a concubine favored by Ku Shoujing were pregnant at the same time. The imperial doctor diagnosed that both were carrying boys. The concubine's pregnancy was a month further along than Madame Lu's, so Madame Lu was anxious day and night. She didn't dare openly force the other party to abort, so she found every way to torture that concubine, tormented excessively by her. The concubine eventually miscarried, and Madame Lu herself slipped while taking a walk and lost her child. Ku Shouzheng was furious. After a thorough investigation, he found it was merely an accident, and could only sell off all the serving slaves to vent his anger. But Madame Lu stubbornly believed that the concubine had framed her. She demanded to beat the person to death. Madame Zeng couldn't bear it, and secretly sent the concubine away. From then on, Madame Lu went crazy in the estate, biting anyone she saw, insisting everything was masterminded by Madame Zeng. Plagued to the point of being unable to stand it, Madame Zeng finally moved to Yulan Villa to live alone. In the 10-odd years that followed, due to Madame Lu's strict prohibition, we never saw each other again. In my previous life, it wasn't until Ku Nianzhou married that Madame Lu, wanting to save face for her daughter, invited Madame Zeng back to the estate to attend the ceremony. 1 year after Ku Nianzhou's death, Madame Zeng passed away from illness. Speaking of which, it was strange. When Ku Nianzhou married, Madame Zeng only symbolically gifted a few sets of jewelry as a dowry. Madame Lu and Ku Nianzhou were very dissatisfied about it, even throwing sarcastic remarks a few times. However, not long after I married, Nanny Cao, who stayed by Madame Zeng's side, suddenly arrived at the Marquis of Chongqing's estate. She said it was Madame Zeng's dying wish to leave half of her estate to me. Money shops, real estate, gold and silver, pearls and jade, antiques, calligraphy, and paintings. It was 100 times more than the dowry Madame Lu had given me. It was also thanks to that wealth that my years in the Marquis of Chongqing's estate weren't entirely miserable. Madame Zeng had shown me great kindness. In my previous life, I had no chance to repay her. In this life, I must. I wanted to get the item Xiao Feng needed, and that required Madame Zeng's help. Xiao Feng wanted the red coral tree from Prince Ruyang's estate. Rumor had it that this treasure stood over 3 meters tall, its red branches winding like dragons, its color red like congealed blood. At night under the lamplight it looked as if it were burning. That was the betrothal gift the late Crown Prince had used to marry the Crown Princess back in the day. The princess consort cherished it deeply and once said she would gift it to someone bound by destiny. Every year, Prince Ruyang's estate hosted a grand banquet on the princess consort's birthday, widely inviting noble ladies to attend. The main purpose was precisely for this matter. Years had passed, and the princess consort still hadn't found her destined person. But because the current emperor highly respected the princess consort, he either personally visited to offer birthday wishes or bestowed generous gifts almost every year. The noble ladies praised by the princess consort at the banquet not only gained widespread fame but also had a huge advantage in marriage prospects and were bestowed with priceless treasures. Therefore, every year, noble ladies fought over each other to attend. Merely receiving an invitation was considered a great honor. I didn't ask Xiao Feng why he wanted that item, but at the spring banquet I had heard quite a bit of side gossip. The current emperor ascended the throne during a time of crisis for the royal court. That year, the late Crown Prince was assassinated by roaming bandits while out providing disaster relief. Hearing the tragic news, the late emperor fell bedridden and never recovered. As the only remaining adult prince, he relied on the support of the Shen clan to ascend the throne. He was not a monarch with grand talents and bold strategies. After many years of ruling, he still couldn't escape the control of maternal relatives. The strongest among them was the Shen clan, the empress's maternal family, followed by the Zhou clan, the noble consort's maternal family. In previous years, the Zhou family also intended to vie for the crown prince's position. But the second prince born to noble consort Zhou was dull-witted, and the third prince was reckless. Compared to Xiao Feng, the difference was like mud and clouds, and they weren't favored by the emperor either. Therefore, the Zhou family took a step back, wanting to marry a Zhou daughter into the Eastern Palace, but that position had long been seen by the Shen family as an item in their pocket. They even spread rumors that Xiao Feng and the legitimate daughter of the Shen family, Shen Qingli, were childhood sweethearts who had long developed feelings for each other. Duke Suguo repeatedly pressured the empress to persuade Xiao Feng. The Zhou family was even more resolute. Their second son voluntarily requested to enter the Eastern Palace as a halberd-bearing guard, and had once blocked a blade for Xiao Feng. After hearing these stories, I immediately understood why Xiao Feng had chosen me. He might not need to rely on choosing a crown princess to consolidate his power, but he couldn't casually offend either side. Choosing a daughter from a pure noble count's estate without actual power like me was the most suitable. And as long as I could win the affection of Princess Consort Ruyang, obtain the red coral tree, and step into the Eastern Palace, the Shen and Zhou families would certainly not dare utter a word of dissent. After all, Princess Consort Ruyang was once the crown princess of the late Crown Prince. Although she hadn't meddled in worldly affairs for many years, the deeds she accomplished back when she was the crown princess were still spoken of endlessly by the common people to this day. Her older brother was Wang Song, currently holding the position of Secondary Grand Secretary. Secondary Grand Secretary Wang didn't form factions or seek personal gain. He was a pure official entirely loyal to the monarch and the state. Prince Ruyang's estate had an unwritten rule. Every year they only invited one noble lady from each estate to the banquet. 3 months before the banquet, the estates had to send their own calling cards to recommend candidates that year. When Ku Nianzhou received the invitation, Madame Lu busied herself endlessly for her. The dresses and jewelry alone filled 2 large chests. Nianzhou also didn't disappoint expectations. At the banquet, she stunned the entire audience with a 7-character poem and a descriptive prose piece. Princess Consort Ruyang personally praised her for her outstanding talent and bestowed upon her a jade wreath. From then on, Ku Nianzhou was hailed as the bright pearl of the capital. Chen Tingxuan's infatuation with her also began. Then he defied the old madam of the Marquis' estate's opposition, and resolutely married her as his wife. Cui Nianzhou gained enough fame and benefits. Madame Lu and Ku Shouzheng also achieved their desires, but no one knew that the 7-character poem and the descriptive prose piece were both written by me. Before attending the banquet, anxious that she wouldn't stand out among the others, Ku Nianzhou cried every day. Madame Lu was so anxious she couldn't sit or stand still. Right at that moment she bumped into a servant carrying the poetry and prose I had composed to the study to be framed. After reading them, she was extremely amazed, then secretly kept them and gave them all to Ku Nianzhou. By the time I found out Ku Nianzhou was already engaged to Chen Tingxuan, she cried while apologizing, saying that if I wanted to pursue the matter, she would apologize with her death. After crying for a while she fainted. Madame Lu was incredibly heartbroken and punished me by making me kneel in the ancestral hall. I kneeled for 2 whole days and still refused to open my mouth to say words of forgiveness. I didn't expect Ku Nianzhou to actually hang herself. Although she was rescued in time and wasn't hurt, her old illness relapsed, leaving her bedridden. Madame Lu fiercely slapped me once, loudly scolding me for being vicious-hearted. Ku Shouzheng didn't get angry, he only looked at me with disappointment. Ling Yao, she is your biological sister. Why must you push her to such a point? The next day, I was sent to a manor outside the city. By the time I was brought back, Ku Nianzhou had already married into the Marquis of Chongqing's estate. The whole matter just sank into oblivion. At that time, I was still young, naive to the point of foolishness. I didn't understand what exactly I had done wrong. I only felt as if a large hole had been gouged into my chest, cold wind constantly pouring in, hurting to the very core. Because of that past incident, Madame Lu naturally wouldn't let me attend the princess consort's birthday banquet. Furthermore, the banquet was only 7 days away. The time for self-recommendation had long passed. At this moment, the only person who could help me was Madame Zhang. That year, after the princess consort gave birth to the county princess, her body suffered severe depletion, and her life was in critical danger. Fortunately, Madame Zhang proactively offered an ancestral secret prescription to help, which saved her life. As long as Madame Zhang was willing to speak up, the princess consort certainly wouldn't begrudge a single invitation. Therefore, I had a falling out with Ku Shouzheng yesterday, with him pressing down. Madame Lu wouldn't dare stop me from going to Yulin Villa. Things went even more smoothly than I imagined. Madame Zhang was extremely happy to see me. After a few pleasantries, she proactively asked if I wanted to attend Princess Consort Ruyang's birthday banquet. Yesterday the Princess Consort just sent me an invitation. If you want to go, grandmother will reply to the invitation and take you along. Seeing me stare blankly, Madame Zhang took my hand. The Princess Consort invites me every year. The only time I refused was the year Nianzhou attended the banquet. Discord among children is mostly due to parents' favoritism. If you were never treated well from the beginning, then there is no need to harbor gratitude. Ling Yao, if you still have knots in your heart, you don't need to force yourself to let go. I was stunned. Madame Lu always thought no one knew about those things. I didn't expect Madame Zhang to know everything after returning from Yulin Villa. I waited 3 days. Sure enough, Prince Ruyang's estate sent a new invitation. Madame Lu was incredibly angry and used my ill health as an excuse to decline. Unexpectedly, the person delivering the invitation came fully prepared. The princess consort is kind and is willing to lend second miss the Clear Spring Villa to recuperate. Clear Spring Villa was originally a royal secondary estate. To show his brother-sister bond, the emperor had specially bestowed it upon Princess Consort Ruyang. It housed a natural medicinal hot spring. It was highly suitable for soaking to nourish the body. Previously, Madame Lu had tried to borrow it from the princess consort on behalf of Ku Nianzhou but was rejected. Now seeing me obtain it easily, she inevitably harbored resentment. You always have better luck than your sister. You really know how to fight for things. I couldn't be bothered with those sarcastic remarks. I just followed the prince's estate's people out. In front of the screen wall, I accidentally ran into Chen Tingxuan Marquis Chen. I curtsied properly, then asked with concern, "Your arrival at this time?" Could it be that elder sister has fully recovered? Nianzhou can get out of bed and walk around today, and has gained a bit of weight. Congratulations, Marquis Chen. If mother knows, she will definitely be very happy. Second sister? Chen Tingshuan looked at me, a hint of loneliness flashing in his eyes. You always used to call me brother-in-law. I was ignorant before. Please don't blame me, Marquis Shen. I meant nothing by it. He paused, his voice somewhat strained. Dr. Qin said that before this he had never left the Qin region, nor had he treated any noble person in the capital. Oh? I smiled faintly. Then what does Marquis Qin want to prove? Before Chen Tingshuan could answer, Madame Lo rushed over after hearing the news and cut in. Tingshuan, did something happen to Nianzhou? Upon learning that Kui Nianzhou's condition had improved, Madame Lo cried tears of joy. Thank heavens. The Bodhisattva has shown her power. I must go see her right away. Nanny Zhang, bring out all the wild ginseng, donkey hide gelatin, bird's nest and deer antler from the storehouse. Hurry. Madame Lu busied herself for a while, and immediately wanted to leave the house. Chen Tingshuan looked at me, the guilt in his eyes spreading further, accompanied by a regret so profound he didn't know where to hide his face with just that single glance. I confirmed it. He had also returned. He also remembered everything from the previous life. I also remembered Madame Lu's attitude when I was gravely ill and dying in my previous life. She said she wanted to go to Lingyan Temple to pray for blessings, and merely sent someone to deliver a few tonics. Chen Jiamin did the exact same thing after finding out at that time. I lay on my sick bed shedding tears, for the first time, complaining to Chen Tingshuan about the unfairness and my disappointment. Yet he said I was just overthinking because of my illness. My mother-in-law and Jiamin aren't doctors. They went to Lingyan Temple precisely to pray for your blessings. After that, he put aside some of his official duties, visiting me every day, sitting and talking with me. But all he ever said over and over was, Lingyao, Nianzhou died early. You are mother-in-law's only daughter now. How could she not love you? Little Jia and little Yu have long considered you their mother. How could they not respect you? They merely considered me their mother. They did not truly love me as one. It was not that they felt nothing for me, only that their love was pitifully small. Compared to Kui Nianzhou, the difference was like heaven and earth. I shot him a half-smile, then turned and stepped onto the prince's estate's carriage. The carriage went straight to Clear Spring Villa. Princess Consort Ruyang arranged for me to stay at the villa for 3 days, even sending trusted servants from the palace to take care of me, attending to every detail. It wasn't until the day before the birthday banquet that they brought me back to Madame Zheng's Yulin villa. This matter was truly strange. As soon as I sat down, I couldn't help but ask, Grandmother, how did you persuade the princess consort? I heard Princess Consort Ruyang has an aloof temperament, coupled with her noble status. She has never been bound by worldly etiquette and favors. For her to remember Madame Zheng's kindness and send me an invitation was already an exception. Whether I could go or not was originally my own business, let alone that this rule couldn't be broken twice. Hearing this, Madame Zheng replied, Grandmother also wanted to ask you, how did you get to go to Clear Spring Villa? I was stunned. Wasn't it Grandmother's idea? That day I met the princess consort, and before I could even speak, she proactively said she heard you were outstanding in both talent and looks, and intended to invite you to the birthday banquet. At that time I told her this matter required your mother's consent. I automatically filtered out the second half of Madame Zheng's sentence, only finding the 4 words, outstanding in both talent and looks, particularly perplexing. That year, after my poetry collection was snatched away by Kui Nianzhou, I stopped writing poems and lyrics. Every time I finished a painting, I would immediately destroy it, and I rarely went out to attend gatherings. So how did this reputation spread? But if it wasn't a bad thing, there was no need to look into it. Early the next morning, I followed Madame Zheng to Prince Ruyang's estate. At the birthday banquet, guests gathered in throngs. Noble ladies from the capital's aristocratic families were everywhere. Madame Zheng was arranged to sit at the high table, and I basked in her glory. As soon as I sat down, I attracted countless gazes, probing, curious, mixed with a bit of shock and jealousy. Not jealousy over the seat, but jealousy over my look. Even Princess Consort Ruyang looked at me a few extra times. I had chosen to appear in my most magnificent state, so I knew in advance this would happen. I was very beautiful, my looks far surpassing Madame Lu's and Kui Nianzhou's. Because of this, Kui Nianzhou frequently cried in front of Madame Lu, saying she worried my excessively striking appearance would invite gossip of being flirtatious and seductive, unbecoming of boudoir training, and not only damaging my reputation but also bringing misfortune to the family, harming relatives, and disgracing the family name. Those were extremely excessive words. Yet Madame Lu thought she was being thorough. She forced me to only wear light-colored clothes and to go out without any makeup. I had grown used to hiding my light. Later, after marrying into the Marquis of Chengying's estate, I also rarely dressed up. Ruju always said I was wasting a heaven-sent gift in this life. I wanted to put it to good use. After the banquet commenced, the noble ladies went up one by one to showcase their talents. All were legitimate daughters of prominent families, and those who dared to step up had real skills. Lute, chess, calligraphy, painting. There were standouts in every field, drawing astonishment and praise from the entire hall. The princess consort offered praises and rewards, but her smile remained faint. Without the slightest ripple of true emotion, I drew the last lot. There had already been too many pearls and jades before me, and it had dragged on for too long. Everyone was tired and inevitably losing interest. But when they saw me step up wearing a moon-white gauze dance gown, trailing on the ground, a massive battle drum placed in the center of the courtyard surrounded by smaller war drums, and several muscular strongmen holding tall battle flags and long spears standing at attention, only then did everyone regain a bit of anticipation. The princess consort smiled and asked, "Miss Kui, do you intend to dance on the drum?" I raised my head, looking straight at her. "Today, this official's daughter is not here to offer a dance." Before the princess consort could ask more, I lightly tapped my toes, spun and flew up. My wide sleeves fluttered like rolling clouds. My figure was as graceful as a swan gliding by, harmonizing with the rhythm, yet containing a core of strength. Gasps of shock erupted all around. I paid them absolutely no mind. When the war drums sounded, I opened my mouth, loudly reciting a rhapsody. Back then in Zikwan, the mountains were endless and vast. Bandits gathered. Cold frost covered the barren hills. The king wielded a golden halberd, personally taking to the battlefield. The consort brought her strategies, overcoming perils together. My voice was naturally soft. In the past, when I chanted or sang, it always carried a gentle, lilting tone, sounding like a passing spring breeze. Soft as melting honey. To prepare for today, I had spent a large sum to invite Yunwei to teach me. After a period of arduous training, the sweet softness in my voice completely vanished. My voice resonated clear as shattering jade, rising above all the clamor in the hall. Reciting up to this point, everyone cast aside their lethargy, sitting up straight to listen intently. As for Princess Consort Ruyang's expression, it had long since changed. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable shock and joy. I knew I had made the right bet. Zikwan was the place where the late Crown Prince and the Crown Princess confirmed their love. The two had once eradicated bandits there, protecting the common people of the region. This passage recounted all their heart-stirring moments and their resolve to live and die together. Mountain winds howled, cold blades flashed fiercely, charging into the tiger's den. Hidden schemes kept close, standing by the treacherous cliff, fighting the winter night together. A single meeting of eyes sealed the vow, a loyal heart shining bright. The battle flags fluttered in the wind. I stomped the tip of my foot hard on the ground, my sleeves sweeping out sharply. The dance was swift as lightning, my body constantly twisting and turning. Every turn was like a blade slicing through the wind, recounting the perils of that year. Sweeping away the vicious beasts, pacifying the 8 directions. Though the battle flag clods has been lowered, the heroic spirit remained undiminished. Having weathered the wind and rain together, writing the history of the mountains and rivers together, holding hands until the hair turns white. May the years last forever. At the very end, the magnificent rhythm from earlier gradually slowed. The lute notes were gentle like a stream flowing over rocks, melodious and lingering. My voice also turned gentle, the dance light and graceful. With a gentle toss of my sleeves, all the sharpness and killing intent dissipated, leaving only tender lingering affection. As the last word fell, the entire great hall fell into absolute silence for a moment. Just as the cheers were about to erupt, fireworks suddenly bloomed in the dark blue night sky. Intertwining red and gold lights burst continuously in the deep night. The brilliant light rained down like shooting stars, illuminating the entire hall, flickering brightly and dimly exactly like the military signal flares over the skies of Zikwan in the past. I bowed my head and knelt, loudly offering my congratulations. This official's daughter, Ku Lingyao, respectfully wishes the princess consort blessings and longevity, like the ever-spring pine and crane, and abundant grace for 10,000 years. On the host's seat, Princess Consort Ruyang's face was already covered in tears. Princess Consort Ruyang bestowed upon me a red coral tree. The ode to Zixuan I recited spread throughout Shangjing in just one night. Not only did it cause a heated discussion among the literati of aristocratic families, but rumors even spread among the common folk that my looks were like jade. Outstanding in talent, she is the brightest pearl of the capital. The previous gossip regarding the broken engagement also vanished like smoke into thin air. Everyone praised me for being kind and filial. Ku Sheng was overjoyed and ordered Madame Lu to open the estate's storehouse, selecting many good items to reward me. He even told me to change courtyards. Tingju Courtyard in the west is too remote. Let's move her to Wenqi Courtyard right away. Madame Lu, who originally had a face full of smiles, immediately pulled a long face. Wenqi Courtyard was Nianzhou's courtyard. Nianzhou has been married for 5 years. How many times does she even come back to stay? Madame Lu choked on her words, but still insisted, I promised to keep it for her. Seeing Kui Shouzheng's displeased expression, she suggested instead, how about moving to Wenhui Courtyard? Although it's slightly smaller, it's warm in winter and cool in summer. Kui Shouzheng looked at me. What does little Yao think? This daughter is already used to Tingju Courtyard. There's no need for the trouble. As soon as the words left my mouth, Madame Lu immediately heaved a sigh of relief, so obvious it was visible to the naked eye. After Kui Shouzheng left, she said to me, your sister's body has fully recovered. I will pay attention to your marriage. The family background will definitely not be lower than Count Enyuan's estate. I paid her no mind, curtsied slightly, and turned to leave. Just as I stepped over the threshold, I heard the sound of a teacup shattering behind me. Look at her attitude. No wonder I favor Nianzhou. She brings this upon herself by refusing to be close to me. If she doesn't have the Count's estate backing her, she will suffer one day after marrying. I didn't stop my steps at all. The unfinished words dissipated into the wind. Just wait and see, mother. As long as I stay far away from you, my life will definitely be peaceful and joyful. After the birthday banquet, Princess Consort Ruyang frequently summoned me to her estate to chat. A month later, she took me as her goddaughter and personally entered the palace to request a title for me. On the day the imperial edict was delivered to the Count of Yongcheng's estate, Ku Nianzhou just so happened to have brought Chen Tingshuan and her pair of children back to her maiden home. Hearing that I was granted the title of County Princess Huiyu and was even bestowed a mansion and 1,000 mu of fertile land, Ku Nianzhou's eyes immediately reddened. Although her mouth spoke words of congratulations, the grievance between her brows was hard to hide. Before the meal was even finished, she clutched her chest and burst into tears. I truly admire Lingyou's health, having a strong body and being smart and clever. Even though mother didn't let her learn to dance, she could still teach herself and succeed. Unlike me, just like before she could finish her sentence, she fainted. The entire hall instantly fell into chaos. Chen Tingshuan thought her old illness had relapsed and hurriedly ordered someone to call for Chen Han. His voice was both urgent and loud, scaring Chen Yu, who was standing beside him, into bursting into tears. Madame Lu immediately threw herself forward, hugging one person with each arm, so frantic she was stamping her feet. Cui Shouzheng rushed out of the hall, shouting to ask where the estate's doctor was. Only I remained sitting quietly in my seat, watching coldly. Madame Lu was extremely dissatisfied and scolded sternly, Quilin Yao. Your sister is in critical danger, yet you are so indifferent. If it weren't for you. Because of me what? I coldly cut her off, my expression composed. Because I have a healthy body, know how to dance and write prose, and am favored by the princess consort, or because I was granted the title of county princess? How strange. Just a moment ago, elder sister was very happy for me. Could it be that mother thinks she was only happy on the surface, but jealous on the inside, and that's why she fainted from anger? You. Madame Lu couldn't refute it. Her eyes red with anger. I said no more. I suddenly stood up, pulled out the golden hairpin from my head, and accurately pierced Kui Nianzhou's philtrum. She let out a cry of pain and snapped her eyes open. I turned to look at Chen Tingshuan, saying sternly, no matter how brilliant Dr. Qin's medical skills are, he cannot cure an illness of the heart. Elder sister is a married woman. If what happened today spreads, I'm afraid the Marquis of Chongqing's estate will have to bear the consequences. Does that foolish Ku Nianzhou still think this is like when we were little, where she could just snatch my things at will? Cui Shouzheng also reacted and immediately put on a stern face. Tingshuan, if Nianzhou is unwell, you all should return to your estate early. Madame Lu's eyes widened in shock. Master. Kui Nianzhou also sobbed. Father, enough. Cui Shouzheng sighed, looking at her helplessly. Your sister is a county princess personally titled by the emperor. Stop making an unreasonable scene. Sees as long as the blade falls on themselves, everyone knows how it hurts. Cui Nianzhou froze for a moment, then covered her face and ran out of the drawing room crying. Chen Yu hastily chased after her, grabbing the hem of her skirt, but she forcefully swung her arm to push him away. The child fell to the ground, crying out loudly in pain. The wet nurse was terrified and hurriedly picked him up to coax him. I watched with weariness. I lifted my foot to leave, but was called back by Chen Tingshuan, second sister. My steps halted. Does Marquis Chen have anything else to say? He looked at me, his gaze complex, hesitating to speak. Just as my patience was about to run completely dry, he suddenly bent down and bowed deeply to me. I'm sorry for everything in the past, please forgive me. I wouldn't leave those 3 words behind. I turned and left, not looking back once. The news of my being titled County Princess hadn't even died down yet when the emperor issued another edict. He appointed me as the Crown Princess, setting the wedding date for half a year later. Along with the imperial edict came an oral decree from the emperor, stating that his dragon body was unwell, and that after the Crown Prince's grand wedding, he would abdicate and become the Grand Emperor. As soon as the edict was announced, both the outer court and the inner harem were shocked. Everyone was immersed in a daze of astonishment as if in a dream. I was very surprised, but I could also understand it. The current emperor was different from many monarchs. His ability to govern the country was only average, but he was benevolent and broad-minded. His relationship with Empress Shen wasn't deep, but he loved the Crown Prince dearly. In the past he took pride in the Crown Prince's intelligence, and now he considered it an honor that the Crown Prince's reputation surpassed his own. He used every means to pave the way for the Crown Prince, solely wishing to see him shine even brighter. Otherwise, in the previous life, after Xiao Feng was assassinated, his hair wouldn't have turned completely white overnight. After Xiao Feng died, he grieved and cried day and night, passing away in less than a year. In his eyes, Xiao Feng's Crown Princess could be anyone, but also couldn't be just anyone. Thinking of this, my heart suddenly stirred. So the thing Xiao Feng wanted, from beginning to end, was never the red coral tree. He just wanted to use that opportunity to test my true abilities, even accurately calculating that as long as I obtained the red coral, I would definitely be titled a county princess. After all, in the current emperor's eyes, the second legitimate daughter of a declining count's estate was not worthy of being the crown princess, but a county princess affirmed by Princess Consort Ruyang as having matchless talent and looks was worthy. Her meager family background, her father with no actual power at this point, these conversely became the bricks that helped build this status. Then what about Xiao Feng? Was marrying me at this time to fulfill his promise, or to force Duke Suguo's estate into making a move? In other words, was the agreement between us rooted in calculation from the very start? Unlike my wandering thoughts, Roseau was spinning in circles with excitement. This is so wonderful. Our miss isn't just the crown princess, she's going to be the empress. This was highly disrespectful. I pretended to be angry and lightly smacked her. Watch your words. Rougeau smiled so widely that only her teeth showed and her eyes disappeared. She took my hand and said seriously, "This is truly wonderful. From now on, no one will dare bully you ever again. Not madam, and certainly not eldest miss. Miss will definitely live a glorious, happy life, blessed with wealth, peace, and splendid tranquility, making them die of anger." Just because of those last few words, the bridge of my nose suddenly stung. Yes, I have to make them die of anger. After the marriage contract was set, Xiao Feng requested an edict to go on an inspection tour of the south. Before setting off, he made a grand display of sending me several carriages of gifts. The convoy passed through Zhuge Street, circling half of Shangjing, letting everyone see the crown prince's high regard for his future crown princess. At the same time, he summoned me to the Eastern Palace. Not having seen him for many days, Xiao Feng's demeanor was the same as always, only the faint dark circles under his eyes, revealing a hint of exhaustion. He got straight to the point. This trip to Jiangnan will take 3 months at the fastest or half a year at the slowest. I can only guarantee you that I will return to the capital in time for the wedding date. Pausing for a moment, he added, "You have been wronged." I smiled. "Which matter is your highness referring to?" "All of it," Xiao Feng replied frankly. "I heard the empress summoned you to the palace yesterday and treated you rather coldly. Is your highness planning to compensate this official's daughter? What do you want?" Working with straightforward people was indeed pleasant. Everyone knew the Shen family's ancestral home was in Jiangnan. A few years ago, someone had come to the capital to accuse the Shen clan members of seizing land and plundering fields. The imperial censors impeached them, and the emperor was furious. But in the end, it was proven to be merely a branch of the Shen family, abusing the Shen name to act tyrannically. After the spring banquet, although the Eastern Palace and the Duke's estate still maintained relations as before, Last month, Xiao Feng used a corruption case to act against the maiden family of heir Shenzhong's father-in-law. Following the clues, he also dismissed several officials affiliated with the Shen family. Because of this, the Empress directed her anger at me. It wasn't just coldness yesterday. Even previously, when I entered the palace to offer thanks for the imperial grace, she wasn't nearly as affectionate as noble consort Zhou. I thought for a moment, then answered the question with another question. Is your highness's trip this time to force Duke Suguo to make a move? Xiao Feng paused, then nodded in admission. What I did before has already disrupted that old man's mind. Another fire needs to be added. The marriage contract between you and me was part of my plan. If you mind this, after everything succeeds, I will help you leave. Does your highness have someone else in your heart? After succeeding, you will make her the empress. Xiao Feng's ears immediately turned red, and he firmly denied it. What nonsense are you saying? I do not. If you don't, then you don't. Why are you so tense? It's not like this official's daughter doesn't believe you. I don't like being misunderstood by others. Since that's the case, this official's daughter will not leave. What a joke. Besides, total fools who think love is enough to live on water, who would give up the position of empress just because they were once schemed against. Xiao Feng stared at me for a while, then suddenly reached out and held my hand. Ling Yao, I know you don't have feelings for me right now, but there will come a day when you will be willing. He didn't offer any more sweet talk or promises. But after I returned to the estate, the chief administrator of the Eastern Palace personally delivered a jewelry box. Inside was a jade pendant and a thick stack of banknotes. The chief administrator said that those banknotes were Xiao Feng's entire private savings, totaling exactly Morchambamiba Tomchum taels. As for the jade pendant, it could be used to mobilize the hidden guards of the Eastern Palace. For a prince to raise hidden guards was originally a grave crime. He had obtained these men by playing the victim and begging the emperor. After discovering the Shen family's ambitions, he took half with him and left half for me. Before I could recover from the shock, I received an imperial decree. The emperor told me to prepare for my marriage with peace of mind, and that I didn't need to enter the palace before Xiao Feng returned to the capital. Was this the special favor he deliberately begged for, to save me from suffering the empress's misdirected anger again? Even knowing this action of his might carry a bit of acting, my heart still couldn't help but feel warm. Every 3 to 5 days, I would receive a letter from Xiao Feng. After entering the city, the messenger would whip his horse and gallop straight to the Count of Yangchang's estate. Dust billowed beneath the horse's hooves, blurring the eyes of pedestrians. Very quickly, rumors spread throughout Shangjing that Crown Prince Xiao Feng had finally blossomed like an iron tree, falling into the net of love. Because of this, I was so busy my feet didn't touch the ground. Aside from preparing my dowry, there were countless banquets to attend. The threshold of the Count of Yangchang's estate was nearly trampled flat by the aristocratic families in the capital. Even the always arrogant Duke Suguo's estate was perfectly polite when sending an invitation. Madame Lu also basked in the glory. Every time she went out, she was treated like an honored guest, surrounded and flattered by everyone. This was an honor she had never enjoyed before. The family background of the Count of Yangchang's estate was neither high nor low, and Ku Shouzheng only held an idle official post. In the very beginning, Madame Lu had to pave her way with silver to attend banquets, and even then, she only ever sat in the middle rows. The most prestigious families basically didn't invite her. Later, thanks to the marriage alliance with the Marquis of Chongqing's estate, she had a chance or two to sit at the end of the banquets. It was nothing like now, where, as the mother of the crown princess, she stood out magnificently. At first, Madame Lu would frequently mention Ku Nianzhou pitying her for not having as good a destiny as I did. I couldn't care less for the banquets that followed. I always invited Madame Zheng to go with me. Given the cold shoulder and repeatedly reminded by outsiders that all her glory came from me, Madame Lu quickly became much more well-behaved. She stopped pitying Ku Nianzhou and began thinking of every possible way to curry favor with me. I calmly accepted those pleasant gestures but gave her zero response. Madame Lu was very angry and ran to Ku Shouzheng to cry and complain. As a result, she was scolded by Ku Shouzheng and the members of the Lu family for being too selfish and unworthy of being a ruling matriarch. Panicked, she suddenly seemed to wake up. She proactively came to apologize and repent to me, even swearing to compensate me twofold. The several times Ku Nianzhou used illness as an excuse to invite her to the estate, she didn't go. She only sent servants to deliver medicine and tonics, without forgetting to lecture her. As the matriarch of the Marquis' estate, managing the household and the servants is your duty. Stop just admiring flowers and the moon, crying and complaining all day. Do you think your mother-in-law is a fool? Can't she tell whether you're feigning illness to shirk responsibility or genuinely sick? If you still don't know your limits, no one will indulge you forever. Those were Madame Lu's exact words. Actually, she knew everything. She knew Queen Yanzhou wasn't entirely that frail, and she also knew that during this period, she had managed the Marquis of Chongqing's estate into a state of chaos, ruining both the old madame's birthday banquet and the little sister-in-law's wedding banquet. The entire capital had a good laugh, and Chen Tingshuan's younger sister was so angry, she nearly hanged herself. If it had been before, upon hearing that Queen Yanzhou was scolded by her mother-in-law, Madame Lu would have rushed over to back her up. She would have used Queen Yanzhou's frail body as an excuse, pulling Chen Tingshuan aside to cry and complain, coaxing him into standing against the old madam. This daughter was the treasure of her heart. For 20 years she had favored her even when wrong, she had to be right. Moreover, Chen Tingshuan had always stood by Queen Yanzhou's side, protecting her with all his might. But now it was different. Cui Yanzhou was too egregiously wrong, yet she still didn't know how to restrain herself, only knowing how to cry, complain, and be unreasonably clingy. Not only did this cause Chen Tingshuan to grow discordant with her, but even Madame Lu felt humiliated. Let alone she also had me, the second daughter, who, though unable to become the treasure of her heart, actually brought her glory. Which was heavier, and which was lighter? Madame Lu and Kui Shoujeng could distinguish very clearly. Later, when Queen Yanzhou sent people over again, Madame Lu resolutely closed the door and refused to see them. She lied, saying she had gone to Lingyin Temple to pray for her blessings, but in reality, she only casually bowed in the Buddhist prayer room and left it at that. 2 months after Xiao Feng left the capital, he wrote to me in a letter, "Indeed, Mr. Qin is a man of talent." The handwriting was bold, forceful, and vigorous. One glance was enough to tell the writer was feeling exceedingly triumphant. I wasn't the least bit surprised. In my previous life, Chen Tingshuan loved discussing politics with me. He praised my intelligence, saying that if I were a man, I would surely be able to serve the monarch. Little did he know, I had secretly learned a great deal from Qin Han outwardly. Qin Han was just a wandering village doctor, but he actually came from a family of civil officials. Years ago his grandfather was caught up in the struggle for the throne, framed by rivals, and ultimately the entire family had their properties confiscated and their lineage exterminated. At that time, he was still in swaddling clothes. He was saved by a loyal servant risking his life, which was how he survived. Although he studied medicine, what always weighed on his mind was clearing his family's name. In my previous life, I had recommended Qin Han to Qin Tingshuan. But at that time, the new emperor was weak. Duke Suguo controlled the court, and overturning the Qin family's case would involve an incredibly wide net, implicating many within Duke Suguo's faction. Qin Tingshuan didn't want to take the risk. Out of caution, he never placed him in a vital position. Qin Han served as an estate doctor for half his life, not resigning to return to the Qian region until a year before I died. I was unwilling to accept it, and so was he. After the imperial decree for my marriage was issued, I recommended Qin Han to Xiao Feng. He didn't ask much, directly granting him the title of junior supervisor and taking him along to the south. Because the distance was great, Xiao Feng changed to sending me a letter every 10 days. Each time, it was 3 pages, 2 pages discussing the progress of his affairs, and 1 page describing local customs. Only at the end of the letter would he ask how the dowry preparations were going, and whether I had enough silver to spend. Once on a whim to joke around, I casually mentioned a few missing items and some heavy expenses. A few days later, the chief administrator of the Eastern Palace brought over a stack of banknotes. The amount was so large, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. Only then did I realize that what the chief administrator had said before, that Mort Bamiba Tamcha Tales was Xiao Feng's entire private savings, was true, but also not entirely true, because this crown prince of ours was a business prodigy. Even though he didn't involve himself in too many industries or expend too much effort, the profits he raked in were exceptionally substantial. In his next letter, Xiao Feng added 2 lines, "If you lack anything, just find Feng Zhao. All my private properties are managed by him. The profits from those businesses are abundant. You may use them as you please." There wasn't a single word of romantic sweet talk, but every single word spoke right to my heart. Naturally, I had to return the favor slightly. The people sending me invitations were countless, so it was unavoidable to have to pick and choose for Duke Suguo's estate alone. I gladly accepted every time. I chatted with the old dowager, played cards with the duchess, and recited poetry and joked with the young ladies of the estate, except for eldest Miss Shen, who disliked me because her love for Xiao Feng went unrequited. The rest of them were warm and affectionate toward me. Before long, I became incredibly close to them, and then I accidentally leaked a few secrets about Xiao Feng's trip to them. I told them that Xiao Feng's southern trip this time yielded a massive harvest. He had uncovered quite a few clues related to iron and salt smuggling and corruption in water transport. Some officials were scared out of their wits and proactively stepped forward as witnesses. "The witness is the key. They must be protected well," a young lady said. "The county office isn't safe. I heard they are usually hidden in secondary estates." I listened intently, then said with a bit of arrogance, "A tall tree catches the wind. Rather than hiding them, it's better to secretly escort them into the capital." "Second Miss is truly wise. That makes perfect sense." The young ladies exchanged glances, then added, "But His Highness traveled light this time. He didn't bring many people with him to begin with. If he sends people to escort the witness back to the capital first, who will protect His Highness? Could there still be hidden guards?" "There are, naturally. It's just—" I blushed, hesitating to speak. Seeing this, everyone chimed in with another round of flattery. Only eldest Mission shot me a cold glance and sneered disdainfully. Her voice wasn't loud, but I heard it very clearly. I kept smiling. I also didn't expect the Crown Prince to treat me so well. He even promised me one lifetime, one couple, swearing never to take a concubine in this life. As soon as the words fell, the teacup in eldest Miss Shen's hand dropped to the floor. She flicked her sleeves and stormed off. I looked at the crowd in feigned shock. "Eldest Miss, what's wrong?" The young ladies, with varying expressions, hastily replied. "Eldest sister must be tired." I pretended not to see the contempt in their eyes, curling my lips into a smile. "His Highness is a man of grand ambitions, decisive and independent. In the future he will definitely not be controlled by anyone." After saying that, I stood up briskly like a peacock, spreading its tail to show off, holding my head high as I walked out of the water pavilion. 7 days later, Eastern Palace guards indeed escorted a criminal into the capital. But because they encountered assassins on the way, only one person survived, and even he was merely clinging to his last breath. He wasn't taken to the imperial prison, but sent straight to the Northern Administrative Court. The commander of the Northern Administrative Court was Zhou Zhao, the eldest son of the Marquis of Jinan. The Crown Prince sending the criminal there instead of the Supreme Court, where Duke Suguo could extend his reach to interfere, was clearly to prove that this matter had nothing to do with the Zhou family, yet it couldn't escape a connection with Duke Suguo's estate. For a time, rumors swirled wildly in the court, and people's hearts were filled with panic and unease. I began using illness as an excuse to decline guests, shutting my doors and not going out. Yet I still couldn't block the noble ladies who came to visit me every day under the guise of inquiring about my illness. They cared about me even more than Madame Lu did, bringing precious gifts, showering me with flattery to curry favor. I was endlessly moved, acting as close to them as if we were biological sisters. The two Shen sisters said with feigned worry, "I heard His Highness's trip hasn't been smooth. I'm just afraid he might be delayed in returning to the capital because of this and miss the wedding date." I smiled cryptically. "Sisters, don't listen to the nonsense of others. Just yesterday, His Highness sent me a letter. Everything is going extremely smoothly, but I heard the witness was attacked by assassins. Being attacked proves that person isn't important. A truly important person, His Highness would naturally guard strictly. Moreover, there is also physical evidence." My expression was unfathomably deep, my eyes revealing a look of smug arrogance. Both Shen sisters showed an expression of "I understand," inevitably throwing out another round of flattery. But in reality, in each other's eyes, the other side looked like an utter fool. After seeing off the two Shen sisters, I was just planning to rest for a bit. Ruzhou suddenly ran in from outside, saying urgently, "Miss, hurry to the front hall. Madam has fainted. What happened?" The young master of the Marquis of Chongqing's estate died prematurely. "The Marquis of Chongqing's estate, Chen Yu." I bolted upright, grabbing her arm. "Who did you say?" "Little Yu is dead. I heard he accidentally ate almonds and choked to death." "That's right. Chen Yu was allergic to almonds. In my previous life, I was extremely careful. All the food in the Marquis's estate completely stopped using almonds. Even the old madam who loved drinking almond dew had to order her chef to make it separately in her own courtyard." My chest instantly tightened. I didn't have time to ask anything more. I hurriedly changed my clothes and went to the Marquis of Chongqing's estate with Madame Lu. The gates of the Marquis's estate were already draped in white cloth. In the morning hall, tragic wails echoed incessantly. Old Madame Zhao beat her chest and stomped her feet, pointing at Chen Tingxuan and scolding. It's all because you were blinded by lust and lost your mind marrying this disaster. Back then I already said she had no ability to manage a household and was unfit to be the matriarch, yet you insisted on marrying her. Now the estate's discipline is in chaos, the inner courtyard is a mess, and we've become a laughingstock for the entire capital. Are you satisfied now? Hurry up and drag the Kwai woman out here. Feigning illness and fainting normally is one thing. Her son is dead, and she's still faking it? My poor little you. Not even 4 years old Madame Zhao cried for a long time. Seeing Chen Tingxuan remaining completely silent from beginning to end, she furiously took out the family whip. Old Madame Zhao came from a military family. She possessed great strength and struck heavily. Before long, Chen Tingxuan's back was soaked in blood, but he didn't utter a single cry. He simply gritted his teeth and endured it, his eyes already blood red. I knew Chen Tingxuan loved this legitimate son very much. In my previous life, after he saved Xiao Feng, not only was he highly regarded by the emperor, but he also took that opportunity to request the title of heir for Chen Yu when he was only 3 years old. Later, when Chen Yu became the third-place scholar, his eyes had also been as red as they were now, saying, "Little Yu is so like his mother." I never expected that in this life, Chen Yu would only live for 4 years, let alone becoming the heir or passing the imperial exams. Because of his frail body, he hadn't even begun his early education. The sorrow in my heart was suddenly dispelled by a sense of irony. I stood quietly to the side, not saying a word. In contrast, Madame Lu couldn't bear to watch anymore. She rushed forward to stop it. "In-law, how can you say such things? Little Yu died prematurely. Nianzhou is the one who is most heartbroken. How could you doubt a mother's heart for her own son?" Ha! Old Madame Zhao struck down with her whip, sneering coldly at the end. "Her heart? I spit on it. Have you ever seen a mother who doesn't know what her own child is allergic to? Or a mother who doesn't know when her child is sick or injured, or doesn't even notice when he lacks thick clothes and socks? My grandson was killed by that cheap slut." Madame Lu was about to argue back. Chen Yunzhou, who had been crying silently, suddenly spoke up. "Madam, little Yu ate almond candy given by sister-in-law. Do you dare say my sister-in-law is faultless?" Madame Lu was choked off so hard, her face turned bright red. She turned to look at me. "Lingyao, say something. This is a private matter between Marquis Chen and your sister. What does mother want me to say?" Before I could finish, Chen Tingxuan suddenly raised his head to look at me. His lips trembled. Just as he was about to say something, he was interrupted by a miserable cry. Nianzhou was dragged in by 2 elderly maidservants. Perhaps she had just been splashed with water. Her hair and face were completely drenched. As soon as she saw Chen Tingxuan, she threw herself forward, grabbing his sleeve and crying loudly, "Husband, I didn't do it on purpose. It was little Yu who clamored for candy. It's all Batao's fault. She's the one who bought the almond candy. And the wet nurse didn't tell me. Little Yu couldn't eat almonds." "Xuan, how could I harm my own son? It's all them. Hurry up and sell them all off." "Enough." Chen Tingxuan violently yanked his sleeve back. His eyes were so red it looked as if blood and tears were about to flow out. "Cui Nianzhou, how much longer are you going to shirk responsibility? Do you really think I don't know why little Jia got hurt? If it weren't for you, refusing to let her sleep, holding her and sitting by the candle all night, how could she have ended up like that? If it weren't for you refusing to come to the main courtyard, I wouldn't have." Cui Nianzhou completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "Xuan, you once said you would love me and treat me well forever. It's only been 5 years and you're already disgusted by me. I don't want to live anymore." After saying that, Nianzhou jumped up and charged straight toward the coffin. Madame Lu was so terrified. She frantically rushed forward to stop her. I took the opportunity to stretch out my leg. She stumbled and fell flat on the ground. As soon as I looked up, I heard Chen Tingxuan roar, "Don't stop her, let her ram her head." The maids and old women who were trying to stop her immediately froze, all looking at their master in a panic. Chen Tingxuan's face was full of disgust. "Cui Nianzhou, this marquis will watch you die. You betrayed me." Cui Nianzhou cried out in alarm, her eyes rolling back in her head before she collapsed heavily to the floor. The Marquis of Chongqing's estate was as chaotic as a battlefield. The mourners couldn't conveniently stay long and took their leave one by one. Madame Lu couldn't put her mind at ease, so she stayed behind. "Nianzhou is sick. I will stay here to watch over little Chia. I nodded, leaving on my own. Just as I reached the estate gates, I was called back by Chen Tingshuan Lingyao. He no longer called me second sister as politely as before. His voice was very soft, very hoarse. The man who always stood as straight as a pine or cypress was now hunching his back and drooping his shoulders, his eyes as bleak as a pool of dead water. I asked calmly, Marquis Chen, is there something else? Chen Tingshuan pursed his lips, licking his dry mouth. You've also returned, haven't you? What does Marquis Chen mean? If not, you wouldn't have known about Qinhan. Your saving Nianzhou's means you predicted this day would come. Chen Tingshuan's eyes were filled with sorrow. Seeing my half-smile, a flash of anger and self-mockery suddenly appeared in his eyes. Seeing me become like this, are you satisfied? Whether you live or die, what does it have to do with me? My voice was cold and hard, showing no courtesy at all. Nianzhou shares my bloodline. Saving her life was merely doing what I ought to do. The person who chose to spend a lifetime with her was you. The situation of the Marquis of Chongqing's estate today is the result of your own choices, not a mistake born of my kindness. Chen Tingshuan stood petrified on the spot. His loss of composure wasn't just due to Chen Yu's premature death. He was truly a man of talent and learning in this life. Although circumstances were different, he was still recommended to the emperor by the palace aide to the censor-in-chief. He received the post of investigating censor. The official rank wasn't high, but the power was immense. Xiao Feng's southern inspection tour this time required 2 investigating censors as part of his entourage, and he was one of them. This was originally an excellent opportunity to render merit and gain a promotion. Chen Tingshuan was full of grand ambitions, never expecting to be ruined by Qu Nianzhou. Because Qu Nianzhou managed the Marquis' estate into a state of chaos, not only did Madame Zhao take back the household management rights, but she also ordered her to pay respects morning and evening to learn the rules every day. Cui Nianzhou was the same as before. She would faint as soon as she arrived. She didn't manage household affairs but loved pointing fingers at everything in the estate. Her spending was extravagant and unrestrained. In the past, Chen Tingshuan always indulged her, even repeatedly defying old Madame Zhao for her sake. But in these past 2 months, Qu Nianzhou noticed that Chen Tingshuan had changed. He was still gentle and attentive to her, but the indulgence of the past was gone. Once he even agreed with old Madame Zhao and reprimanded her for only knowing how to admire flowers and the moon, saying she was unfit to be a matriarch. Because of this, Qu Nianzhou cried for days, even using Chen Jiamin as an excuse, but still couldn't force Chen Tingshuan to concede. Even Madame Lu refused to come back her up anymore. She panicked. She worried that during the few months Chen Tingshuan went on his southern tour, old Madame Zhao would think of every possible way to torture her and strictly enforce the rules. She also worried that the riverlands of Jiangnan might produce a beauty who would take the opportunity to insert herself between them. Therefore, on the night before Chen Tingshuan was supposed to set off, she drugged him, leaving him poisoned and comatose, forcefully making him miss the trip. Chen Tingshuan looked at me sorrowfully, guilt surging in the depths of his eyes, and then, as if giving birth to an impossible obsession, he felt regret. You're right, today's situation is of my own making. All along I've been trapped in a vain obsession. I failed the one most worthy of cherishing. I deserve to die 10,000 deaths. I regret it, Lingyao. If there is a next life, I absolutely will not fail you again. He had just lost his son. Originally, I didn't want to provoke him, but these words disgusted me to the point I couldn't bear it. Marquis Chen has too many things to regret, and too many people you have failed. In your next life, being a human probably won't be enough to repay them all. You might as well become a pig or a dog, giving up your very flesh and blood to pay it all back cleanly. Chen Tingshuan froze, all the blood instantly draining from his face. I turned and walked away. I believed he truly regretted it. Back then, he fell in love with Qu Nianzhou at first sight, broke off his engagement with the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Works, and turned to beg for her hand in marriage instead. Back then, for her sake, he defied the whole world, offended the minister, enraged the empress, and single-handedly buried his own future. Were it not for that, given his family background and talent, he would have soared to the clouds long ago. I believed he regretted failing me in his previous life. But if you were to ask what he regretted the most, could he truly tell the difference himself? A month later, another criminal was escorted into the capital. This time, Xiao Feng dispatched elite guards for the escort. Although they encountered several assassinations along the way, they remained safe and sound, and the prisoner was also sent into the Northern Administrative Court. According to insiders, the Crown Prince now held sufficient witnesses and physical evidence in his hands, and would return to the capital earlier than expected. Before the Tushin sisters could come find me to fish for information, the Empress had already summoned me, an eldest mission, into the palace, to announce the good news. The Crown Prince will be returning to the capital soon. His Majesty wishes to host a family banquet. Miss Kui, you are already the Crown Princess, so the responsibility of organizing this banquet falls to you. I respectfully accepted the order, secretly guessing her intentions in my heart. Sure enough, the Empress sighed and continued. You come from a lowly background and originally are not worthy of being the Crown Princess, but since the Crown Prince likes you, this palace has no choice but to accept it. Qingli is a child this palace has watched grow up since childhood. This palace wishes for her to enter the Eastern Palace alongside you as a secondary consort. I remained as respectful as before. I leave everything for your Majesty to decide. The Empress looked at me for a moment. On the Crown Prince's side, it will still require you to step forward and persuade him. So she made the decision herself beforehand. I turned to look at Shen Qingli. Does eldest Miss Shen also share this intention? This official's daughter is willing to help. A flash of hatred crossed Shen Qingli's eyes. She knelt before the Empress and pleaded, I beg Aunt to retract the order. Qingli does not wish to enter the Eastern Palace. The Empress was shocked. Qingli, haven't you always adored a Feng? Cousin only has eyes for second Miss Kui. Qingli does not wish to force others, much less thus be despised by cousin. When that time comes, it will bring no benefit to Aunt or the Shen family. The Empress was stunned. It was indeed true. Her desire to bring Shen Qingli into the Eastern Palace was mostly for the glory of the entire Shen clan. Shen Qingli continued, actually, fourth sister also admires cousin. She is still young, let's wait a few years. When cousin lacks people by his side, it will be very suitable for her to enter the palace then. Fourth Miss Shen Qingdi was Shen Qingli's biological sister, born of the same mother. The Empress wavered a bit, but still refused to give up. Then what about you? Shen Qingli bowed her head entirely to the ground. Qingli wishes to marry Prince Zhao. I beg Aunt to make it happen. I nearly laughed out loud. It seemed Duke Sugo's estate had not only made up their minds to make a move, but were also extremely confident of victory. In the previous life, Shen Qingli had also married Prince Zhao. When the new emperor proved weak, she manipulated the inner harem. She arbitrarily framed concubines and imperial offspring. As for Shen Qingdi, under her persuasion, she was married off to the deceased Xiao Feng by the Empress, who had by then become the Empress Dowager, forcing her to become a widow, guarding her chastity. It was truly vicious to the extreme. I coldly watched her put on a show, not saying another word until we left the palace. However, Shen Qingli blocked my carriage right in front of the palace gates. Today I proactively yielded. I'm sure second Miss Kui must be very pleased. I dropped the respectful demeanor I held earlier. I retorted mockingly. Eldest Miss Shen did not yield. You simply could not reach it in the first place. Otherwise, after all these years, why has His Highness still refused to marry you? His Highness once told me that your looks are ordinary, your learning is shallow, and you are not even worth one of my fingers. Being admired by you only makes him feel disgusted. Quilling Yao. Shen Qingli was provoked by my words. She raised her hand to slap me, but I easily caught her wrist in this life, because I wanted to live longer. I had practiced martial arts with the guards every day. My strength was considerable, and she could not break free. All she could do was shout furiously, "You wretch, let go of me." I gave a faint smile, turned my hand, and slapped her cleanly across the face. Smack! How dare you insult the Crown Princess? Slap her mouth for me. With only one glance from me, the nanny beside me immediately stepped forward. Several slaps landed one after another, and soon Shen Qingli's cheeks were swollen, the corner of her lips split. If there is a next time, I will take your life. Leaving those words behind, I lifted my chin and stepped into the carriage. Even after the carriage had gone far away, I could still hear her shrieking curses behind me. She told me to wait and swore she would make my life worse than death. Rozo looked somewhat worried. Miss, I'm afraid Duke Sugo's estate will not let this go. I looked at the bright red dye on my fingernails and smiled faintly. What I want is precisely for them not to let this go. When the Empress learned that Shen Qingli had been beaten, she flew into a rage and immediately sent a nanny to the Count's estate to discipline me. But before the nanny could lay a hand on me, an imperial edict arrived. His Majesty declared that I had acted rashly and punished me by ordering me to remain behind closed doors in self-reflection. Shen Qingli, on the other hand, had offended the Crown Princess and was punished by being sent to the Imperial Ancestral Temple to copy scriptures. Since she had not yet officially returned home from the palace, the marriage between her and Prince Xiao naturally dissolved into nothing. The empress became so furious that she fell ill, and Duke Suguo's estate sank even deeper beneath dark clouds. Everyone whispered that the emperor had never truly favored the empress, and that he had only given her dignity and indulged the Shin family for the sake of the crown prince. Now that such a thing had happened, it must mean the crown prince already held a card strong enough to bring down the Shen family, and precisely at that critical moment, Xiao Feng was assassinated. His injuries were said to be extremely serious, and his life hung by a thread. When the news reached Shangjing, His Majesty vomited blood and fainted. Falling unconscious that very night, Prince Jia was summoned into the palace by the empress. Su and Shenzhong, father and son, also entered the palace before the gates were locked. After midnight, the empress issued an order, summoning the inner cabinet into the palace. Inside the Taiji Hall, the empress personally announced, "The crown prince has passed away." His Majesty was overcome with grief and suffered a stroke. When he briefly regained consciousness, he issued an order appointing Prince Zhao as the new heir. Aside from the empress, Prince Zhao and the father and son of Duke Suguo's estate, the chief physician of the imperial hospital, and many palace servants all came forward as witnesses. The officials of the inner cabinet exchanged glances. They did not completely believe it, but for a moment they could not openly refute it either. Chief Grand Secretary Zhang requested to inspect the edict, but Shenzhong drew his blade and pressed it against his throat. At that life-or-death moment, Prince Zhao suddenly dropped to his knees and shouted loudly, "I will not be emperor. Let second brother or third brother do it." The empress was so furious she nearly went mad. "What nonsense are you saying?" Prince Zhao remained firm. "I have neither talent nor virtue. I am only suited to being an idle prince." "Shut your mouth," the empress slapped him in anger. "Your eldest brother was blinded by a woman. The glory of our entire Shin family now rests on you." The moment those words left her mouth, she realized she had misspoken. Her face instantly turned deathly pale. Shensu ignored Prince Zhao and only looked at Chief Grand Secretary Zhang. "His Majesty has just passed down an oral decree. I ask the Grand Secretary to take up the brush and draft the edict. Forgive me, I cannot obey." Chief Grand Secretary Zhang refused decisively. Even with a blade at his throat, he showed no fear. Seeing this, the others also spoke in unison. "Even if we die here today, we will have died in loyal service. We will have no regrets." Shinsu hated them to the extreme with a look. He signaled Shenzhong to kill one of them as a warning to the rest. Just then, a soft cough suddenly sounded from the inner hall. "Does Duke Suguo intend to rebel?" Shensu trembled violently and turned his head in shock. At the same time, the doors of the Great Hall were thrown open from outside. Xiao Feng, dressed in dark robes, strode in with the imperial guards behind him. Under the lamplight, his brows and eyes seemed washed in moonlight, cold and bright. He carried both the natural nobility of imperial blood and the chilling aura of someone who had just returned from a battlefield. "Uncle, I have returned." With that single sentence, Sisu and Shenzhong dropped their weapons and collapsed to their knees in despair. They had fallen into the trap. The Shen family had helped the emperor ascend the throne, and Shen Su had once saved the emperor's life. With only the evidence in Xiao Feng's hands, it still would not have been enough to make that soft-hearted emperor deal ruthlessly with Duke Suguo's estate, unless they assassinated the heir and attempted to seize the throne. But that day at Shenyun Pavilion, they had never actually made a move. So why was the crown prince so determined to force the Shen family into a dead end? Shen Su and Shenzhong were executed for treason. Their crimes of smuggling salt and iron, embezzlement and taking bribes were also investigated and exposed. Duke Suguo's estate collapsed overnight. The male members of the family were executed, and the women were exiled. When a radish is pulled from the ground, it brings mud with it. Many aristocratic families were implicated as well. For a time, the people of Shangjing were unsettled and fearful. By the time everything finally calmed down completely, 2 months had already passed. During that period, the empress submitted a request to depose herself, saying that she lacked virtue and had failed to judge people wisely. She moved into Changsmen Palace to live in quiet seclusion. Prince Zhao knelt outside Taiji Hall for 3 full days, begging His Majesty to spare Shen Qingdi from exile and allow her to enter Prince Zhao's estate as a servant. The emperor granted his request. The next day, His Majesty issued an edict abdicating the throne to the crown prince, while he himself withdrew to become the Grand Emperor. After the abdication ceremony, there should originally have been a separate enthronement ceremony. But because the new emperor's wedding was approaching, the court officials suggested combining the 2 grand ceremonies into one. Xiao Feng ordered the Imperial Astronomical Bureau to select an auspicious date. At the same time, he intended to ennoble Kui Shoujeng as Marquis Chengen to show his regard for me, but I refused. He did not ask why. He simply turned around and had someone deliver gold and silver to me as compensation. According to the rules, before the grand ceremony I still had to remain at the Count's estate and prepare for my marriage. Because of this, Madame Lu became so busy that she barely had time to breathe. Everyone praised her for loving me like a treasure held in her palm. But just then, news suddenly came from the Marquis of Chongqing's estate that Ku Nianzhou had died. In this life, because Qin Han had treated her, I finally learned that the reason Ku Nianzhou's body had always been weak was because she had once taken too many bitter medicinal herbs such as sophora root and philodendron. Qin Han's prescription could not make her completely healthy, but it was more than enough to preserve her life. Now that she had suddenly died of illness, could it be that she had stopped taking the medicine? Before I could send someone to investigate, Madame Lu returned to the estate in tears. She said Ku Nianzhou had taken her own life. That made me even more puzzled. Chen Tingxuan had requested a transfer to serve outside the capital. He had only left Shangjing yesterday. Why would she do such a thing today? Madame Lu said. It happened yesterday. She wanted to keep Tingxuan from leaving, so she sent maids and old women to invite him over. But Tingxuan still insisted on going. Her body was weak and something went wrong. Poor Jair is only 1 year old and has already lost her mother. What will she do in the future? Madame Lu cried for a while. Seeing me remain silent in thought, she wanted to scold me but did not dare. She hesitated for a time before saying, Ling Yao, you and Nianzhou were blood sisters. Can Jair acknowledge you as her mother? What? Does mother still want to marry me to Marquis Chen? Madame Lu was so frightened that she hurriedly covered my mouth. Do you not want to live anymore? How can you say such nonsense? The one who does not want to live is mother. I am the empress. If Chen Jiamin acknowledges me as her mother, where does that place his majesty? Madame Lu did not dare respond. She merely ordered a maid to place a letter and a bundle of scrolls before me. Dianzhou left these for you. In my previous life when Ku Nianzhou lay dying, I had stayed by her bedside. She cried and begged Chen Tingxuan to treat me well, begged me to raise Chen Yu and Chen Jiamin to adulthood, and begged Madame Lu to visit the Marquise's estate, often to see the 2 children. But in this life at the end she only left me a letter. This time she did not cry. The entire page was filled with accusations. She blamed me for being scheming, blamed me for having good fortune, blamed me for deliberately seeking out Qin Han and exposing her. That, she said, was why Chen Tingxuan had grown to despise her. Not only had he despised her, he had even transferred his feelings to me. She wanted me to compensate her. She wanted me to ask for Chen Jiamin to be granted the title of county princess. At first I did not understand why Ku Nianzhou so stubbornly believed that Chen Tingxuan had changed his heart. Then I opened those scrolls. They were all paintings of a beautiful woman. The woman in the paintings wore magnificent robes of peach pink or turmeric yellow. Her brows and eyes were bright and dazzling, her lips red as rouge. Just one backward glance from her seemed enough to make light ripple and flow, her beauty so brilliant that it was almost blinding. In my previous life, I had once seen similar paintings in Chen Tingxuan's study. The woman in those paintings had the same bearing and features as the one before me now. The only difference was that she wore moon white or pale blue garments. At that time, I instinctively assumed the woman was Ku Nianzhou. While I was staring at them in thought, Chen Tingxuan entered from outside. When he saw the paintings, he became extremely tense and snatched them away. From then on, he never allowed me to enter his study again. Because of that matter, I had been saddened for a very long time. I never expected that in this life Ku Nianzhou would think the same thing. I ordered the servants to burn all the paintings and the letter. Then I told Ku Shoujeng to submit a memorial, asking Xiao Feng to order Chen Tingxuan to resign from office and observe mourning for Ku Nianzhou. Since father is worried about Jir, then let Marquis Chen remain in mourning until Jir reaches marriageable age. Since mother has lost her beloved daughter and is heartbroken beyond measure, let her move to a countryside estate to recuperate. Cui Shoujeng's hands trembled when he heard this. He knew that once this memorial was submitted, the relationship between him and the Marquis of Chongqing's estate would be severed completely. His reputation for generosity and benevolence would also be gone. But he had no choice but to write it. Xiao Feng selected 3 auspicious dates from those calculated by the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, and let me choose for myself. I saw that the nearest date was the wedding date we had originally set. So I tested him and asked, "Does your Majesty still have any concerns?" That date was originally chosen so everything could be completed as soon as possible. The timing is too rushed, so mistakes in the wedding robes and ceremonies would be hard to avoid. Xiao Feng frankly admitted his earlier calculations. The tips of his ears turned slightly red. Now that everything has settled, I do not want you to suffer any grievance. Those words truly warmed the heart. My face grew hot. After hesitating for a while, I finally asked the question that had been pressing on my heart for many days. Back then, why did your majesty choose me? If I had not interfered, your majesty could have punished Duke Suguo's estate directly at Shenyun Pavilion. Before moving into Changmen Palace, the empress had once summoned me. In just a few short days, the once dignified and jade-like mother of the nation had become so haggard she was almost unrecognizable. Facing me, she no longer had her former arrogance and majesty. She told me that before attending the banquet at Shenyun Pavilion, Xiao Feng had once asked her, if Duke Suguo's estate committed a grave crime, how should Mother Empress deal with it? That alone was enough to show that he had long been wary of Duke Suguo's estate. Shenzhong making a move that day was no different from seeking his own death. Xiao Feng looked at me for a long time. Suddenly he lowered himself and held me in his arms. The scent of ambergris lingered at the tip of my nose. My body suddenly stiffened and I instinctively struggled lightly, but he held me even tighter. At that time I was very hesitant. When I was young, Uncle loved me dearly. Shenzhong and I were as close as brothers. I did not want to believe it. His warm breath brushed past my ear as he spoke. Xiao Feng's voice was weary, carrying a deep sorrow. My heart trembled. Just as I was about to ask, Xiao Feng spoke first. It sounds ridiculous, but my suspicion of Duke Suguo's estate began with a strange dream. In that dream, I was assassinated, and I did not have much time left. Mother Empress came to see me, but all she asked was for me to persuade Father Emperor to pass the throne to fourth brother in the future. I agreed. I personally destroyed the physical evidence in my hands and also killed the witness hidden by the Zhou family. Mother Empress did that to prolong the glory of the Shen clan. I did not pursue the matter because I wanted to balance the court factions and preserve the stability of the realm. None of it was entirely unreasonable, but I was deeply hurt. My heart suddenly ached. No wonder in my previous life, Xiao Feng had died without ever revealing the truth, so it was not that he did not know, it was that he was afraid. He was afraid that after bringing down Duke Suguo's estate, the Zhou family would grow too powerful alone and develop other ambitions. The second prince was dull-witted. The fourth prince was weak. The third prince, though intelligent, was reckless and brutal. Not one of them was suitable to be a wise ruler. He was afraid that after his death, no matter which prince ascended the throne, that prince would become a puppet and perhaps even allow the maternal relatives to seize control of the empire. He also feared that if the one who ascended the throne was not the fourth prince, then with noble consort Zhou's nature, the empress and the fourth prince would not meet a good end. He had no other path to choose. My vision gradually blurred. Tears rolled down my face and soaked Xiao Feng's collar. His body suddenly stiffened, and he quickly released me. We looked at each other for a while. Then he raised his hand to cup my face, his fingertips gently wiping away the tears at the corners of my eyes. Are you hurting for me? His gaze was deep, light trembling in his dark eyes. I nodded. I feel it was unfair to your majesty. It is all in the past now. His thin lips pressed together slightly. After a moment of silence, he suddenly said, Do you truly want to know why I chose you? Yes, the reason is somewhat despicable. Is it too late for you not to listen now? You are not allowed to blame me. Fine. Who told you to be the emperor? I waited for his answer, but Xiao Feng did not speak for a long time. It was not until my eyes, full of curiosity, made him feel unnatural that he finally said, In that dream of mine there was also a woman we met many times. In the palace, on the polo field, on Juk Street, and even at the Marquis of Chongqing's estate. I could hear her speak, but from beginning to end I could never see her face clearly, until the spring banquet when I met you. At that moment her face and yours suddenly overlapped, and in that instant I lost my heart. Hearing this, turbulent waves immediately rose in my heart. Could it be? Could it be that the Xiao Feng of my previous life had liked me? I did not know where that affection had begun, nor could I think of any opportunity that might have moved his heart. But I suddenly remembered one thing. In the 4th year after I married Chen Tingshuan, during the longevity festival, he brought me into the palace to offer birthday congratulations. At the banquet, Xiao Feng once praised me for wholeheartedly raising the children of my deceased elder sister. He said my virtue was precious, and even requested that His Majesty grant me the title of first-rank noble lady. For a moment, the entire hall had been in an uproar. A younger sister marrying her elder sister's husband was never something glorious. Moreover, before Kui Nianzhou died, I had already broken off my engagement and entered the Marquise's estate to care for her. Half a year after her death, I married Chen Tingshuan. The gossip behind my back had never ceased. At that time, everyone believed Xiao Feng had done it to preserve Chen Tingshuan's dignity, and used the imperial title to silence the talkative people. I thought the same. I never imagined he had done it for me. After that day, until Xiao Feng passed away half a year later, we never met again. Perhaps the stunned expression on my face was too amusing. The corners of Xiao Feng's lips tightened, and then he suddenly laughed. He was already extremely handsome. That smile made his brows and eyes brighten at once, his radiance so dazzling it was enough to disturb the heart. I could not help smiling with him. Then I rose onto my toes and kissed the corner of his lips. His eyes widened. A moment later, he lowered his head and kissed me back. We held hands, our 10 fingers intertwined, and gradually laughed until our backs bent. No one explained further, and no one asked anything more. The past was only the beginning. The days ahead would be filled only with ease and joy. In this life, we would surely sweep away the dust of the past with a flick of our sleeves, then stand shoulder to shoulder and reshape the world together.